Chapter 8:27. This ceremony of the Qin clan was conducted on a grand scale. Among the Heavenly Emperor 8 gates, it could be said that it had triggered an earthquake-level effect. All the Heavenly Emperor 8 gates were inexplicably surprised. When Qin Wushuang took over as the head chief of the Qin clan, he announced to the world that the position of the head chief had changed hands. Due to the special situation, for now the Qin clan would not accept the congratulations from foreign guests. They would only hold a grand celebration within the Qin clan and celebrate with the entire clan. It swept away the bad luck of being suppressed by others for more than a dozen years. Qin Wushuang's action was like a brand new scenery that appeared before the Heavenly Emperor 8 Gate. Since ancient times, it was unheard of for someone to take over as the leader of the Heavenly Emperor 8 Gates at the age of 30. Naturally, as if the news had grown legs, it spread outside the Heavenly Emperor Mountain and across the entire Xian Yuan Mound. Then, it spread across the entire Tian Xian land. In each corner of the Tian Xian land, all places with martial artists, after 3 days, almost everyone was discussing this astonishing action of the Heavenly Emperor Qin clan. Taking over as the head chief at the age of 30 had simply challenged the limit of everyone's knowledge. For your information, in the martial arts world, many people were still lingering in the void martial stage at the age of 30. For those weaker ones, they could not even enter the upper sky spiritual martial force. This was the difference. Qin Wushuang was already the leader of a sect at the age of 30. It was rumored that before this, he had also severely injured Xian Tianwen of the Heavenly Emperor Gate. All sorts of rumors had raised a clamor. Qin Wushuang did not care about the rumors from the outside world. Instead, he concentrated under the ley lines of the aspiring throne mountain. While he trained, he repaired these damaged underground ley lines. What made Qin Wushuang feel excited was that indeed, the underground ley lines were the place with the most abundant spiritual qi. Initially, Qin Wushuang was able to advance by leaps and bounds because of the underground ley lines of the Heavenly Luo Daoist sect. It allowed him to achieve astonishing breakthroughs. Currently, Qin Wushuang did not feel the slightest difficulty in repairing the spiritual ley lines. Since he had been dealing with the underground spiritual ley lines, it had allowed Qin Wushuang to achieve twice the results with half the effort. The only unfortunate thing was that in the battle with Xian Tianwen, he sacrificed a golem puppet and destroyed the integrity of the 9 Palace Return 1 Sword formation. However, there was no need to worry about that. Qin Wushuang still had materials at hand, so he made 2 more puppets. One of them was used to make up for the shortcomings of the 9 Palaces Return to 1 Sword formation, and the other was used as a doppelganger for his real body. With the materials he currently had, he could still refine 3 to 5 great golem puppets, so he wasn't in a hurry to use them all up. Thankfully, I did not melt my captive soul puppet into the golem when I activated it. Otherwise, where could I find such a good soul puppet after the soul puppet was killed? Initially at the Endless Eastern Sea, Qin Wushuang captured the divine souls of 9 Supreme Dao elite warriors. He refined them into Supreme Dao puppets and used the divine venomous technique to control the divine souls. When he fought with Xian Tianwen, he separated a puppet clone and took out the divine soul puppet to prevent it from getting killed. Since it was a golem puppet that was going to be sacrificed, there was no need to fill in the divine soul. The golem puppet that merged with the divine soul would be the strongest puppet. Of course, Qin Wushuang would not sacrifice the divine soul puppet for nothing. He saved it and now merged it into the new golem puppet. He controlled it with the divine soul and practiced the 9 Palaces Return to 1 Sword formation without the slightest mistake. For the other doppelganger of his real body, he did not have many divine soul puppets to merge with. This made Qin Wushuang feel somewhat helpless. Initially, he did not know how to cherish it and killed Supreme Dao opponents when he saw them. If he could use the divine venomous technique to control a few more divine souls and merge them into the golem puppet, How great would that be? While Qin Wushuang sighed with emotion, he reminded himself inwardly that in the future, if he encountered any Supreme Tao elite warriors, he must live. It would be too wasteful to kill them directly. For the 9 palaces returned to one sword formation. Currently, those 9 divine souls had comprehended the determination, footwork, and sword techniques thoroughly. They only lacked the tacit understanding and the specific run-in during the joint training. This would require time. Of course, to unleash the full power of the 9 palaces returned to one sword formation, these golem puppets still needed to improve. Inside the ley lines, of course Qin Wushuang would not let go of the opportunity to refine these golem puppets. Each day, besides his own training, he would also refine these golem puppets. On this day, as Qin Wushuang looked at this 8 desolation and 6 directions formation, he was rather satisfied. With this speed, in about 7 days, the spiritual ley lines will be completely restored. Fortunately, that Nirvana Heavenly Plough is not a divine weapon at the level of the Heavenly Emperor Sword. Or else, if it destroyed the underground spiritual ley lines and caused them to collapse completely, without 30 to 50 years of restoration, it would be impossible to have a clue. The matter went unexpectedly smoothly. Qin Shaotian estimated that it would take 3 to 5 months to repair, but Qin Wushuang only used less than 2 months to completely repair the underground spiritual ley lines. Naturally, such speed gave the entire Qin clan another pleasant surprise. Naturally, their trust in Qin Wushuang also increased imperceptibly. Of course, Qin Wushuang was well aware that he was able to repair these underground spiritual ley lines ahead of time because of his 5 attribute. In addition, it was also because his wood attribute also possessed a certain degree of restoration ability. This was the talent and advantage that Qin Wushuang did not possess. Most importantly, initially at the 9 refined mysterious wind valley of the heavenly Luo Daoist sect, Qin Wushuang had trained for a long time at the underground spiritual ley lines. He was not unfamiliar with the underground ley lines at all. He had an extremely sharp grasp and understanding of the rules of spiritual qi movement. This allowed him to achieve twice the results with half the effort. After the spiritual ley lines were restored, Qin Wushuang made some appropriate adjustments to the 8 desolation and 6 directions formation. He allowed the direction of this formation to be more targeted. Most importantly, Qin Wushuang used his own methods and divine skills to expand the exterior spiritual ley lines. The depth of the defense was strengthened to a certain extent. When the 8 desolation and 6 directions formation was activated again, the entire Qin clan cheered. To the Qin clan, this was definitely no less than a victory. The joy of such victory was almost on par with beating away Xin Tianwen. After all, with the restoration of the spiritual ley lines and the activation of the formation, it meant that Qin Wushuang could return to that undefeatable position from a dozen years ago. Currently, since Xin Tianwen had lost the Nirvana Heavenly Plough, what method could he use to break the defense of the Qin clan? Inside the upright morality hall, Qin Wushuang held a high position. Currently, through each of his movements, he already possessed the prestige of a head chief. With the 4 great divine beasts as his wings, it increased his prestige a lot. Currently, the Qin clan could be said to have powerful soldiers and powerful horses. Inside the upright morality hall there was a great atmosphere. This caused the disciples of the Qin clan to feel incredibly excited. When they saw all these Supreme Tao elite warriors, the disciples of the Qin clan felt incredibly reassured. With all these Supreme Tao elite warriors, the future of the Qin clan would certainly be bright. Qin Wushuang looked around and said, "Everyone, with the restoration of the spiritual ley lines and the activation of the 8 desolation and 6 directions formation, the consolidation of the Qin clan's rear is a joyous matter." However, that Xin Tianwen did not change his mind. "I think in the next 3 months, certainly he will come to make a ruckus." Currently, with the fall of the Xin clan, Only Xian Tianwen and Xian Tianchen are left. Now, it's their turn to be jealous of the number of Supreme Tao warriors in the Qin clan. Therefore, everyone must not be careless. Now, the Xian clan will certainly go crazy and deal with our Supreme Tao elite warriors at all costs. After all, the number of our Supreme Tao elite warriors is extremely impressive. Because it's impressive, we must cherish it. If we maintain this great atmosphere, we will have more capital in the Heavenly Emperor election in 3 years. Head Chief's words are reasonable. If that Xian Tianwen comes again, we cannot rely on our large number of Supreme Tao warriors to fight him head-on. That would be an irrational thought. Now, the most appropriate choice is to conceal our strength, bide our time, and increase our strength. Qin Chongyang was the first to speak. Qin Yunran also said, Head Chief, when that Xian Tianwen comes again, we will deal with all changes by remaining unchanged. Without the Nirvana Heavenly Plow, Xian Tianwen is at his wit's end. Let's just watch him jump around and go crazy. It's great fun. Qin Wushuang said with a smile. Clearly, it would not work if we sit and watch. When that Xian Tianwen comes again, I will go out and fight with them to attract his attention. Of course, the best time to deal with Xian Tianwen is not now, but the day of the Heavenly Emperor election. Qin Yunran and Qin Chongyang nodded. Yes, Head Chief is young and has an obvious age advantage. In 3 years, certainly there will be methods and divine skills to deal with Xian Tianwen. However, although Xian Tianwen is a great calamity, in 3 years, perhaps the greatest threat to seize the Heavenly Emperor seat will come from the Yun clan. Suddenly, Qin Chongyang said, the Yun clan and the Qin clan have made an agreement since ancient times to not attack each other and never be enemies. Although this is the case, the strength of the Yun clan must not be underestimated. Especially the head chief of the Yun clan. He is also incredibly mysterious. I heard that his strength is not weaker than Xian Tianwen and Grand Elder Xiaotian. In the competition for the Heavenly Emperor seat, the Yun clan is the greatest opponent. Yun clan? Inwardly, Qin Wushuang had a strange feeling. Yun Xuechen, the second chief of the Yun clan, had shared some fate with him in the past. He had taught him the cloud garment feathery technique. Up to this day, Qin Wushuang had benefited endlessly. Although competing for the Heavenly Emperor seat with the Yun clan would not be like water and fire, certainly it would be a competition of personal feelings. However, Qin Wushuang did not think too much about it. Personal relationships were personal, and official business was official business. Public and private matters must be separated clearly, and he must not show favoritism. While they were discussing, suddenly, Qin Wushuang's expression turned slightly cold as he said with a low voice, "Enemies are invading." Who? Xian Tianwen? Qin Yunran and Qin Chongyang reacted at the same time. It's not Xian Tianwen or his saber-beard divine beast. Qin Wushuang shook his head. If it was these two, his observant finger jade plate would have shown it. The incomer was a stranger. However, his strength and pressure seemed to be above Xian Tianwen. This burst of pressure seemed to be able to collapse the entire aspiring throne mountain at any moment. It was abnormally powerful. Qin Wushuang instructed, "Everyone, you guard the mountain gate, I will go out to meet this person. Remember, you must not go out recklessly. The incomer is powerful and seems to be above Xian Tianwen. Most likely, he's a totem elite warrior." After Qin Wushuang finished speaking, in a flash, he was already outside the upright morality hall. Everyone looked at Qin Wushuang's marvelous body movements and methods. While they were astonished, they were also indescribably excited. When a totem elite warrior came to invade, despite his young age, the head chief was able to remain calm. It was enough to show his demeanor. With such a head chief in the Qin clan, even if the sky collapsed, what would they fear? To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 828. Before the Mountain Gate, Xian Yuanwei did not deliberately initiate his supreme Tao aura. Although he was domineering and displeased with the Qin clan, he would not dare to break the rules openly. The totem clans were not allowed to participate in secular conflict. This was a rule set since the immemorial times. Although Xian Yuanwei had not interfered openly when he bestowed the Nirvana Heavenly Plough to Xian Tianwen, in fact there was already a problem with his position. Now, to ask for the Nirvana Heavenly Plough, of course he could not be overly arrogant. If he were to spank him, it would be difficult for the Xian Yuan clan to explain to the other totem clans when the situation turned sour. Before the aspiring throne mountain, Xian Yuanwei channeled his spiritual perception and discovered that the spiritual qi was abundant in all directions. The movements of the spiritual qi were orderly and did not show any signs of breaking. Inwardly, he could not refrain from feeling suspicious. In these dozen years, could it be that Xian Tianwen did not use any power? How could the spiritual qi movements of the aspiring throne mountain be so smooth? With the power of the Nirvana Heavenly Plough, plus Xian Tianwen's extraordinary power, it was impossible for the spiritual ley lines of the aspiring throne mountain to remain undamaged. While Xian Yuanwei was feeling astonished, suddenly his ears moved and he fixed his gaze to the front. When a mechanism was opened, Qin Wushuang flew out. The purple cloud in yang wings kept growing bigger. From a faint purple light, it transformed into a pair of giant wings that covered the sky. Qin Wushuang held the graceful spiritual bow and glared at Xian Yuanwei with anger. He said coldly, "Who are you? How dare you trespass into the territory of the Qin clan?" Although he asked this question, Qin Wushuang already caught some clues from Xian Yuanwei's spiritual perception. This person emitted a burst of powerful power. It was similar to the elite warrior of the Xian Yuan clan he saw at the Illusion Heavenly Lake. It was the unique presence of the totem Xian Yuan clan. Qin Wushuang was enlightened inwardly, yet he pretended to be confused. Inwardly, he thought quickly about the intention of this elite warrior of the Xian Yuan clan to come to the Qin clan at this time. Xian Yuanwei narrowed his eyes and fixed his gaze on Qin Wushuang's each and every move. With blurred eyes, he stared at the graceful spiritual bow and revealed some greed. Regarding how Xian Yuanwei helped Xian Tianwen in the beginning, it was not because he shared a deep relationship with Xian Tianwen, but because of this graceful spiritual bow. Now, seeing that the graceful spiritual bow was in Qin Wushuang's hands, it was emitting a powerful aura. Even he, an elite warrior of the genuine Supreme Tao, was extremely envious of the biting cold aura that was emitted from the exceptional divine weapon. Qin Wushuang, the new head chief of the Qin clan? Xian Yuanwei's brows raised, and he revealed a dignified expression. This sort of expression, if it was an ordinary Supreme Tao expert, they would probably be frightened on the spot. Qin Wushuang, on the other hand, was always on guard. He didn't even trust the powerhouses of the totem clan. "You are?" Qin Wushuang asked, even though he already knew the answer. "Qin Wushuang, it doesn't matter who I am." Xian Yuanwei's tone was cold. "What's important is that I have a few words for you to listen to. You are hiding your head and shrinking your tail. Do you think I would be interested to listen to a few words from you?" Qin Wushuang gave a cold sneer and opposed him with equal harshness. As long as the other party did not take the initiative to show his identity, he would ignore him. Xian Yuanwei's difficulty was that he could not reveal his identity. Once he did, he would leave some words for this Qin clan to grab onto. However, Qin Wushuang was also on guard against this move. Despite knowing his background, he was forcing him to admit his identity. In between the answers, Qin Wushuang hid his intelligence. "Young man, at your age, if you are willing to restrain your edge and conceal your strength, you will have a bright future. You are showing off your edge, yet you need to remember one thing: the rafters that stick out will rot first. Xian Yuanwei thought these words were extremely appropriate. Unexpectedly, Qin Wushuang snorted disdainfully. Sir, these empty principles are useful to coax little kids. The entire Qin clan has experienced more than a dozen years of suffering. We don't need these so-called advice. Speak openly. What are your intentions? When Xian Yuanwei saw that Qin Wushuang was stubborn and did not fall for his tricks, he became even angrier inwardly. My intentions? My intention is to point out a way to survive for the Qin clan. Ha ha ha! Qin Wushuang seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world as he laughed to the sky. Without restraint, he used a provocative gaze to judge Xian Yuanwei. Clearly, he looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. To a proud and arrogant totem elite warrior like Xian Yuanwei, of course, such provocative gaze was a form of great humiliation. Unexpectedly, everything was not over. Qin Wushuang said with a cold sneer, "Point out a way to survive? Do you think you are the savior? When the Qin clan was attacked by the Heavenly Emperor party, how come I didn't hear you point out a way to survive? When the Qin clan was on the verge of death, how come I didn't see you point out a way to survive? Now, the general situation of the Qin clan is set, the Heavenly Emperor Gate Xian clan is on the verge of death, yet you are pointing out a way to survive? A way to survive is a way to survive through one's own strength, and not through your eloquence. Speak if you have something to say, go ahead." The Qin clan has many things waiting to be done. I don't have time to dawdle with you. Qin Wushuang did not plan to give the other party any face. He already guessed most of the intentions of this person. Without a doubt, he had come for the Nirvana Heavenly Plough. To the Xian Yuan clan, when that Nirvana Heavenly Plough fell into the hands of the Qin clan, it was their weakness. With such reliance, how could Qin Wushuang not know the difference between the high and low? Since this person did not dare to admit his identity, he had this layer of concern and restraining fear. Due to the standpoint of the Xian Yuan clan, the Qin clan had suffered for a dozen years. They had suffered a dozen years of vexation and were suppressed to the point of being unable to breathe. Now, how could Qin Wushuang show him a good attitude? What about the totem clan? In Qin Wushuang's eyes, authority must be supported by virtue. If the totem clan did not care about virtue and interfered with the Heavenly Emperor Mountain competition, then why should such authority be placed above their head? This was Qin Wushuang's personality. If someone respected him, he would respect them 10 times over. If you ride on top of his head and act like a tyrant, I will not hold back. Even if you are the authority, I will overturn you at all costs. The totem clan would not be an exception. Xian Yuanwei was greatly angered by Qin Wushuang's words. If he did not consider his sensitive identity, and if he were to make a move, he would have already started fighting. Although Qin Wushuang had the graceful spiritual bow and the purple cloud in yang wings, Xian Yuanwei was not Xian Tianwen. His own strength was much more powerful than Xian Tianwen. To deal with Qin Wushuang, he was confident that he had at least 80% chance of winning. With Xian Yuanwei's personality, even if it was an agreement between the totem clans, most likely he would disregard it brazenly if he was in a rush. However, this Qin Wushuang was a figure that even the head chief of the Xian Yuan clan must pay attention to. Most likely this Qin Wushuang did not know that he had a major backer that even the paramount totem elite warriors feared. Because of this point, he was restraining Xian Yuanwei. Although Qin Wushuang spoke with a tough tone, he was paying attention to this person before him at all times. If this person were to go berserk, he would not be an ordinary opponent. Most likely Xian Tianwen could not be mentioned on equal terms with this person before him. Qin Wushuang, young people like to speak freely, you are straightforward. Don't forget, in the end, who gave you this privilege for the Heavenly Emperor Mountain competition. Xian Yuanwei's voice was cold. Qin Wushuang pretended to be confused. The Qin clan enforces justice for the heavens, of course it's the right of talent. Those who obey the heavens will prosper, those who defy the heavens will die. For tens and thousands of years, the Qin clan has followed the heavens and the natural law. Presumptuous! Xian Yuanwei's brows almost stood up. In his eyes, Qin Wushuang's words were simply disgraceful and outrageous. Since the heavenly Emperor Qin clan was acting so presumptuous, how could he allow them to seize the heavenly emperor's seat? Xian Yuanwei felt that this time, he had something to say before the head chief. Since this Qin clan had looked down on the totem Xian Yuan clan, how could it be if he did not teach them a lesson? If the Xian clan did not have the skill to deal with the Qin clan, could it be that the totem Xian Yuan clan also did not have the skill? Clearly it was impossible. In the eyes of the totem clan, any sect at the heavenly Emperor Mountain was not enough to challenge the totem clan. Even if the heavenly Emperor Eight Gates joined forces, they would not be enough to face the totem Xian Yuan clan. Initially, Xian Yuanwei was not a person with a good temper. After being provoked by Qin Wushuang, he was completely infuriated. Qin Wushuang, I thought you were truly muddle-headed. You are pretending to be muddle-headed, right? Xian Yuanwei said coldly, from beginning to end, you have guessed my identity. Yet, you deliberately put on such airs for me to see. What, are you trying to demonstrate your power to me, to the totem clan? Xian Yuanwei had shed all pretense of cordiality. By not asking for the Nirvana heavenly plow, he had left some leeway. Even if someone were to investigate in the future, he could find an excuse and say that he had come to mediate the conflict at the Heavenly Emperor Mountain to allow the Heavenly Emperor election to proceed in an orderly manner. Everyone's mouth grew on their body. In the end, it would be up to them to talk. For an elite warrior of the totem clan, the weight of his words would not be lighter than an immature kid like him, right? Qin Wushuang revealed a trace of a cold sneer. He knew that the other party was showing his trump card and planned to use his identity as a totem clan member to suppress him. Are you trying to tell me that you are an elite warrior of the totem clan? I, Qin Wushuang, have only heard that the totem clan is high and mighty, fair, strict, and not biased. Since you have come, it seems you have deviated from your standpoint, right? You want to pretend to be an elite warrior of the totem clan, isn't it laughable? Qin Wushuang was also a crafty person as he used a Tai Chi move to push away Xian Yuanwei's attack. He would not allow him to unleash the power of a totem elite warrior. Xian Yuanwei said with a cold sneer, Qin Wushuang, indeed I see that you are bold. You even want to deny the totem elite warrior of the Xian Yuan totem clan? I only know that totem elite warriors are open and aboveboard. I have never seen a totem elite warrior that does not even dare to state his own name. If you say you are an elite warrior of the totem clan, do you have a name? Qin Wushuang had set a trap in secret. If you have the skill, leave your name and we will have an explanation. Xian Yuanwei said angrily, I am Xian Yuanwei, the number 3 elite warrior of the Xian Yuan clan. You are looking down on the authority of the totem clan, how should you be punished? Number 3 elite warrior of the totem clan? Inwardly, Qin Wushuang was truly shocked. Then, he laughed. Then I dare to ask, what is the purpose of your visit? I don't think you should open your golden mouth to speak about the way out, right? Xian Yuanwei gave a cold sneer. Stop being mischievous before me. The war between the Qin and the Xian clan has affected other sections. Such meaningless internal friction has greatly weakened the power of the Xian Yuan mound. Today, I have come to warn the Qin clan that you need to reflect on it. Qin Wushuang said leisurely, Sir Wei, to speak of warning, you should go to the Xian clan first. As long as you are not blind or deaf, you should know that the Heavenly Emperor Xian clan was the one that started the fight. The Qin clan has been closed for a dozen years and barely managed to protect ourselves. What wrong did we do? To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 829. Since Qin Wushuang had started his career in the Eastwood Qin clan, regardless of fighting or talking, when had he ever been at a disadvantage? He was a person that paid particular attention. Of course, he must strike the enemy and make the enemy unable to make a comeback. Even if he moved his mouth, he must refute the other party until they were speechless. Even if he was making trouble without reason, he must maintain some momentum. In terms of reputation and morality, Qin Wushuang did not want to leave any of them behind. He only felt pity for that Xian Yuan Wei. Initially, he thought that with his identity as the Xian Yuan totem elite warrior, as long as he gave some hints, wouldn't the entire Qin clan rush up to flatter him and worm their way into being friends? How could he have imagined that it would be such a scene? For such a situation, not to mention he had never encountered it before, most likely no secular powerhouse had disregarded a totem elite warrior in the past 30,000 years. It was not Xian Yuan Wei's fault. Indeed, this matter was too strange. No one would have thought that a mere disciple of the Qin clan would be this arrogant to an elite warrior of the Xian Yuan totem clan. Initially, Xian Yuan Wei did not even need to use a single one of his little schemes. Initially, he wanted to hint his identity and have the entire Qin clan rush up to curry favor. Then, he would give a slight hint to take back the Nirvana Heavenly Plow and give a promise to mediate the conflict between the Qin and the Exian clan. He would allow them to not fight each other before the Heavenly Emperor election. For this wishful thinking, if Qin Shaotian were to rule the Qin clan, perhaps he would have a 90% chance of success. However, for the current Qin clan, it was Qin Wushuang who was in charge. For Qin Wushuang, as a person of 2 lifetimes, he was always amenable to coaxing but not coercion. In the eyes of the other people of the Heavenly Emperor 8 Gates, the totem clan was indeed supreme authority. However, Qin Wushuang would not buy it. If the totem clan was courteous, of course Qin Wushuang would be courteous and respectful. Naturally, he would not neglect the proper etiquette. Yet, this Xian Yuan Wei acted pretentious as soon as he appeared. His arrogant demeanor made Qin Wushuang feel angry when he looked at him. Plus, he was already dissatisfied with the Xian Yuan clan secretly helping the Exian clan. With all these negative emotions piled on top of each other, how could Qin Wushuang buy the other party's account? Qin Wushuang, it seems that your Qin clan was attacked by the other powerhouses of the Heavenly Emperor Mountain for a reason. I think that most likely the Qin clan will bear this responsibility. Under Xian Yuan Wei's rage, his buttocks began to tilt. His tone had already begun to deviate from his stance. Qin Wushuang sneered and said, "This kind of argument, let's wait until after the Heavenly Emperor election before coming to a conclusion." The ancients all knew that the winner was king while the loser was in the wrong. The outcome of the battle hadn't been determined yet, and Wang Kou's identity hadn't been confirmed. Wasn't it too early to talk about whose responsibility it was? Sir Wei, I do have one thing I don't understand. I think that Exian Tianwen is on par with my Grand Elder Shaotian. When he attacked the Qin clan, that Exian Tianwen performed a supreme Dao weapon called the Nirvana Heavenly Plow. Anyone with discerning eyes would know that only a totem elite warrior could possess it. I do want to ask, where did Exian Tianwen get that divine weapon? Since you, Xian Yuan Wei, are unwilling to admit it, I'll help you. Qin Wushuang let out a cold sneer. In terms of scheming and shrewdness, this Xian Yuan Wei who only knew how to put on airs might not be Qin Wushuang's opponent. Don't look at how he pretended to be profound before Exian Tianwen and pretended to hold the pearl of wisdom. In fact, if they were to tear into each other face to face, Xian Yuan Wei might not have any advantage. He was able to act pretentious before Exian Tianwen because he relied on his superior identity and strength. At the same time, it was also because of his identity as a member of the Totem clan. After all, the the totem Xian Yuan clan had always considered themselves as the masters of the Xian Yuan mound. The Xian clan was only a temporary existence that acted as the steward of the Xian Yuan clan. Such psychological advantage allowed Xian Yuan Wei to act like a fish in water before Xian Tianwen. Now, Qin Wushuang did not fall for this trick. Xian Yuan Wei's psychological advantage had vanished without a trace. Being questioned by Qin Wushuang's words, Xian Yuan Wei was dumbstruck. How could he not want that nirvana heavenly plow back? However, once he admitted it, most likely Qin Wushuang would not return it. He might even use this opportunity to make a fuss. By that time, most likely the Xian Yuan clan would fall into a passive position. Even if he did not admit it, that nirvana heavenly plow was a supreme Tao weapon of great fortune. Xian Yuan Wei had refined it for many years, and could not unleash half of its power. Naturally, he knew what kind of exceptional supreme Tao weapon the nirvana heavenly plow was. Inwardly, he was unwilling to give it to Qin Wushuang for nothing. While he scolded Xian Tianwen for being useless inwardly, he thought rapidly on how to get this nirvana heavenly plow back. Xian Yuan Wei also saw that this Qin Wushuang was a smart person. He was also a smart person that excelled at pretending to be a fool. For this nirvana heavenly plow, unless Qin Wushuang was willing to return it. Or else, regardless of how much he said, it would be useless. Qin Wushuang seemed to have guessed 70 to 80% of it by observing his words and body language. Inwardly, he felt it was funny. Certainly this Xian Yuan Wei is the backer behind Xian Tianwen. I am afraid that nirvana heavenly plow is most likely his. Without a doubt, this guy wants to return the nirvana heavenly plow. Humph humph, how could there be such a simple matter in the world? Totem elite warrior? Do you think that as soon as you show off your identity and tyrannical temperament, I will bow down to you? Truly, you must be daydreaming. It will not be easy to take back the nirvana heavenly plow from me. It seemed that Qin Wushuang was deliberately whetting Xian Yuan Wei's appetite. He grabbed the nirvana heavenly plow with his hand and threw it. The gears on top of it rotated rapidly. Xian Yuan Wei's eyes were almost shooting fire. He saw with one glance that the secret patterns of the formation above the nirvana heavenly plow had been completely removed. Currently, the nirvana heavenly plow was simply a rough blank. How could it have the grand image of a supreme Tao weapon? Qin Wushuang mumbled to himself, indeed, this nirvana heavenly plow is a rare divine weapon. Unfortunately, the person who crafted it has poor technique. Not even 50% of its power was developed. It's truly a reckless waste of natural resources. These words sounded like he was mumbling to himself, yet how could Xian Yuan Wei not understand the reasoning behind it? The other party was mocking him maliciously. By cursing the bald donkey in front of the monk, his intentions were as clear as day. Xian Yuan Wei's thoughts turned rapidly. In the end, he could not think of a suitable way to make the other party hand over this nirvana heavenly plow willingly. Thinking quickly, suddenly, he said, Qin Wushuang, you are so bold. Where did you steal this nirvana heavenly plow from? You dare to show it off? When Qin Wushuang saw Xian Yuan Wei's serious expression, he almost got bluff. As soon as this thought flashed across his mind, he knew that this Xian Yuan Wei was deliberately bluffing. He laughed. Sir Wei, hearing your tone, your next step is to admit that this nirvana heavenly plow is the divine weapon of your Xian Yuan clan, right? If I explain that I seized this thing from Xian Tianwen, surely you will angrily denounce Xian Tianwen for stealing the divine weapon of the Xian Yuan clan. Isn't this a trick? In general, you will not admit that you gave this thing to Xian Tianwen, right? These words were more ruthless than a slap to Xian Yuan Wei's face. In fact, this Xian Yuan Wei did have this idea in mind. Even the steps were the same as what Qin Wushuang had exposed. When Qin Wushuang exposed him directly, Xian Yuan Wei was instantly tongue-tied. He did not know what to do next. This Qin Wushuang was truly powerful. Before he finished his first move, he had already blocked the next few moves. If he admitted that he gave it to Xian Tianwen, he would be inviting trouble to himself. Regardless of Xian Yuanwei's stubbornness, he would not make such a low-level mistake. He let out a cold sneer. Qin Wushuang, hearing your tone, it seems that you will not stop until you have poured a basin of dirty water on the head of my Xian Yuan clan? What, could it be you truly want to challenge the authority that the Xian Yuan clan has always restrained? Qin Wushuang said seriously, Sir Wei, a straightforward person does not resort to insinuations. Don't pull the banner of a tiger's skin. To put it bluntly, this matter is a private deal between you and Xian Tianwen. In terms of the bargaining chip, if I've guessed correctly, it's the graceful spiritual bow in my possession. Unfortunately, you made the wrong bet and chose Xian Tianwen, a guy that is incapable of accomplishing anything, but capable of ruining things. Not only did you not finish the matter cleanly, you exposed the head and tail. Sir Wei, if you still want to pretend, let's stop here today. If you don't plan to pretend, we can still talk about this matter. Qin Wushuang's words were not the slightest bit courteous. Xian Yuanwei only felt that the initiative before his eyes was being nibbled away by the other party step by step. Up to this point, all the initiative had run to the other party. Could they still talk about it? Xian Yuanwei was energized as he cleared his throat. He wanted to use his identity as a totem elite warrior to speak a few words of courtesy to boost his morale. Unexpectedly, Qin Wushuang's next words almost choked him to death. He said, Sir Wei, since you cannot use the great signboard of the Xian Yuan clan today, you better be honest, lower your stance, and talk as equals. Or else I will see you out. Xian Yuanwei was dumbstruck. Indeed, this Qin Wushuang was sharp. No wonder Xian Tianwen could not take down the Qin clan. It seems that this Qin clan indeed has new talents in every generation. Indeed, Xian Yuanwei was only fighting a verbal battle. In fact, for today's trip, how could he use the great signboard of the Xian Yuan clan? If he truly used the great signboard of the Xian Yuan clan to bully the Qin clan, then the Xian Yuan clan would have to wait for the other totem elite warriors to condemn them. For this matter, with one careless move, most likely it would develop into a situation where the totem powerhouses fought against each other. Xian Yuanwei would not dare to neglect this matter. Up to this moment, Xian Yuanwei realized that if he did not lower his stance today, it would be impossible to make this Qin Wushuang speak nicely. He gave a light sneer. Qin Wushuang, I admit that you are someone. If you have any suggestions, why not speak them out? If I can accept it, I will pinch my nose and take it. If it's too much, humph humph, at most I will get rid of the identity of the Xian Yuan clan. By that time, I will turn around to deal with the Qin clan. Let's see who can say anything about me? Theoretically, breaking away from the Xian Yuan clan would be a great killing weapon. However, Qin Wushuang was sneering inwardly. Not to mention the fact that Xian Yuanwei was unwilling to part with it, even if he was willing to part with it, without the golden signboard of the Xian Yuan clan, as a lone general without an army, how much restraint would he have? Revealing a light smile, Qin Wushuang said, This Nirvana heavenly plough must be yours. I knew it the moment you stepped out. You wanted to take it back and did not want to leave something that could be used against you. I can understand your mood. However, this object destroyed the spiritual ley lines of the Qin clan, and it took me a few months to repair it. It also severely injured my Grand Elder Xiaotian. Therefore, don't even think about taking this object back with just a few words. Sir Wei, why don't we set up a bet? Bet? Xian Yuanwei was moved inwardly. How? What's the bet? It's simple. My bet is this Nirvana heavenly plough. If you win the bet, you can take this Nirvana heavenly plough back. You don't need to give any explanation, and you don't need to worry about the Qin clan making things difficult for you. What about my bet? Xian Yuanwei asked with narrowed eyes. I need enough Xian Yuan spiritual stones and Xian Yuan living soil. When you have collected these things, come to the aspiring throne mountain. Today, I will not keep you company." After Qin Wushuang finished speaking, in a flash, he disappeared. Xian Yuan Wei was left dumbstruck. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 830. Qin Wushuang wanted the Xian Yuan spiritual stone and Xian Yuan living soil. Clearly, he was inspired by Qin Yunran and knew that the Xian Yuan mound produced these two divine goods. These two divine goods were the key to congealing the supreme Tao essence of the earth attribute. Any one of them could help him congeal the supreme Tao essence of the earth attribute in a short 10 years. Therefore, Qin Wushuang asked for these two goods as soon as he opened his mouth. Xian Yuan Wei was incredibly annoyed when he was given the cold shoulder. Being a totem elite warrior, if he appeared at any sect across the entire Xian Yuan mound, most likely countless people would rush to flatter and curry favor with him. How could it be like today, where he was bullied from beginning to end? The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. However, he must admit it. Indeed, this Qin Wushuang had courage and insight. At least, in these tens and thousands of years, only a handful of people dared to act so domineering before a totem elite warrior. Thinking back to how Xian Tianwen, being a heavenly emperor, did not even dare to breathe loudly before him, yet this Qin Wushuang was acting so vile, it was not strange that Xian Yuan Wei felt unbalanced. Humph, this kid is not scheming enough to seize my nirvana heavenly plow. His nails are rather long. Is he after the Xian Yuan spiritual stone and living soil again? Since he wants to play, I will play with him. I will play until he collapses. Xian Yuan Wei was not an ordinary person. Since he intended to take revenge on this Qin clan, he had more ideas in his head. When he returned to the clan, everyone inside the upright morality hall was incredibly curious. There were some hidden worries in their eyes. Clearly, they had guessed the identity of the visitor and heard the conversation between Qin Wushuang and Xian Yuan Wei. On one hand, they were incredibly gratified. It was because, being the head chief, Qin Wushuang had displayed a calm and collected temperament before the totem clan. The entire Qin clan admired his temperament that was neither servile nor overbearing. This lofty and unyielding character was the style that the Qin clan had always insisted on. On the other hand, to the Qin clan, when the totem elite warrior came to their door and was offended to such an extent, it did not seem to be a good thing. After all, at the front door of the Qin clan, there was the Xian clan, the hungry wolf, glaring at them covetously. If the hungry tiger, the totem clan, were to jump in from the back door, it would be great trouble. Qin Wushuang calmly took his seat. Looking at everyone's expression, he smiled slightly. His confident smile infected everyone. Even Qin Yunran and Qin Chongyang, who were experienced in Jianghu, could not help but be impressed by Qin Wushuang's bearing. The fact that Qin Wushuang was able to remain calm and composed under this kind of situation, even if Mt. Tai collapsed in front of him, his self-restraint would not change color. This proved that Qin Wushuang indeed had the talent to be a commander. Of course, Qin Wushuang's confidence was not blind. Ever since he entered the sixth circle of the seven deadly arrays formation, Qin Wushuang's confidence grew by the day, and he finally realized the true big picture of the profound sky continent. The totem forces were indeed authoritative. However, such authority was not something that could not be offended. Qin Wushuang knew clearly that if he could digest all the fortuitous opportunities at the sixth circle, train the great five attributes reincarnation seal to the peak, and practice the 9 palace return 1 sword formation skillfully, and successfully open the mustard cave dwelling, what about the totem clan? Qin Wushuang knew that even if it was the totem clan, it was not something that could not be offended. Even if it was the totem clan, they were not made of iron. The structure of the profound sky continent was not unchanging. The totem clans were not the ones that had the final say. If the totem clan bullied him intolerably, Qin Wushuang would not mind to challenge this depressing structure. No powerhouse was born to be aristocrat. The totem clan was only the early bird that reached the top since the immemorial times. Everyone, up to this point, since Grand Elder Xiaotian has passed the position of head chief to me, there is no need to conceal it. There is a rumor that I have inherited the immemorial formation. Initially, this was a rumor the Xian clan spread to deal with me. However, their rumor hit the mark by a stroke of luck. That's right, I, Qin Wushuang, am able to achieve today's achievement because, firstly, I inherited the immemorial formation. Secondly, it's all thanks to the graceful spiritual bow. Instantly, the expression of Qin Yunran and the others became complicated when they laid their cards on the table this time. Everyone's face was filled with surprise and even ecstasy. Qin Taichong and Qin Xiaohong were slightly surprised. Initially, they thought that Qin Wushuang would keep this secret and not share it with others. They also made up their minds to not sell out Qin Wushuang's secret. Unexpectedly, Qin Wushuang had confessed it himself. Qin Yunran chuckled happily and could not close his mouth. He gave a long sigh and said, "Head chief, since you stepped onto the path of martial arts, you have dazzled people with all kinds of monstrous performance. It seems that the rumors from the outside world are reasonable." Inwardly, Qin Chongyang was overjoyed. However, his expression was not as exaggerated as Qin Yunran's. He said, "Head chief, I just don't know how much foundation that immemorial formation has inherited? Rumor has it that the one who acquires that immemorial formation can ride above the peak of the land. Wushuang, now you." Qin Wushuang knew what he wanted to ask. In fact, it was a question that everyone was concerned about. Everyone wanted to know what level Qin Wushuang was at. Qin Wushuang said with a light smile, "Everyone must want to ask me what my current strength is and whether I have the capital and qualification to challenge the totem clan, right?" Everyone did not speak and a faint smile emerged on their faces. Of course, this was a form of silent agreement. Qin Yunran waved his hand and laughed. "Head chief, don't keep us in suspense." "Second chief, I am not keeping you in suspense. In terms of strength, with my current strength, certainly I cannot defeat that Sir Xian Yuanwei from a moment ago. I am afraid that if I were to confront Xin Tianwen head-on, it would be difficult for me to gain an advantage for now. However, it would not be easy for them to kill me." Qin Wushuang was not speaking without thinking. In terms of fighting head-on, naturally he was somewhat lacking. However, regardless of Xian Yuanwei or Xin Tianwen, it would not be easy for them to kill Qin Wushuang. "Head chief, it's all right for the Xian clan to fight to the death with the Qin clan. For that elite warrior of the Xian Yuan clan, I am afraid the difference in attitude will greatly affect the general situation." Ji Bai was an honest person. He did not have any malicious intentions when he raised this suggestion. The other Supreme Dao elite warriors more or less had similar thoughts. However, he felt that for sure Qin Wushuang had his own intentions for acting this way. He had the capital to be confident. Indeed, Qin Wushuang let out a light laugh. First of all, everyone should not treat the totem elite warriors as the same as the totem clans. This Xian Yuanwei came here sneakily. He definitely cannot represent the totem clan. Secondly, even if he does represent the totem clan, the Qin clan is not in the wrong from beginning to end. We have reason and evidence, and we have something to use against them. Despite the vastness of the Tianxian land, it is not a place without reason. Thirdly, regardless of the totem clan or the Xian clan, the ones that truly decide the fate of the Qin clan are each disciple of the Qin clan. The stronger the Qin clan is, the more stable our survival will be. Even if the Xian Yuan clan wants to suppress us, they will not be able to do so. For all of this, we need to be strong enough. It wasn't empty talk, it was all the truth. If they were strong enough, even if the Xian Yuan clan wanted to make life difficult for the Qin clan, they must consider whether it would be appropriate. Ha, head chief, I am afraid the Totem clan will not play their cards according to the rules. Regardless of how strong the Qin clan is, before the Totem clan, it seems we are far from enough. Jibo was somewhat distressed. A trace of shrewd light flashed across Qin Wushuang's eyes as he chuckled. Far from enough? That's a matter of the past. In the future, the Qin clan will have the sky above our head and the earth beneath our feet. In the Tian Xian land, don't think about having any powerhouses step on top of the Qin clan. The powerful and resonating declaration was also a promise Qin Wushuang gave to everyone. For some unknown reason, everyone trusted this young man who had stepped onto the path of martial arts for less than 20 years. They did not doubt that he could do this. Qin Wushuang's powerful confidence had infected everyone. Head Chief is a rare genius and has great fortune and fortuitous opportunities. In the future, you will ride above the peak of the Tian Xian land. This momentum will be like a river flowing into the sea, unstoppable. Head Chief mighty. When Qin Wushuang saw that everyone's morale had risen and the atmosphere had become lively, he said with a smile, "Everyone, I don't want to give you any empty promises. There is only one sentence: as long as I, Qin Wushuang, still have one breath left, even if the sky were to fall, I will hold it up. Unless I collapse, or else, the Qin clan will never stop climbing up the ladder. I have 2 sets of sword formations here. One is the Big Dipper Sky Gang formation, and the other is the 9 Palace Return 1 sword formation. Both are sword formations with many people and possess incomparably powerful power. The former formation requires 7 people to form a formation. The power unleashed can be increased by 49 times. The 9 Palace Return 1 sword formation requires 9 people to form a formation. Its power can be increased to 81 times. In other words, one person can unleash 81 times the power. How could it be a simple addition of data? Now, I plan to gather all the exceptional disciples of the sect to practice these 2 sword formations. Especially the 9 Palace Return 1 sword formation, its power is extraordinary. Qin Wushuang also knew clearly that it would not be enough to rely on him alone for the power of a sect. It was not spring for a single branch to outshine the others. Qin Wushuang wanted the Qin clan to have 100 flowers bloom and develop together to produce talented people. Therefore, he planned to share a portion of the inherited secret books he had acquired. After 3 days, the Upright Morality Hall announced to the entire Qin clan. Inside the Qin clan, they would reward martial artists at the Supreme Dao stage. For those that entered the Supreme Dao stage, they would teach the first profound stage of the Great 5 Attributes Reincarnation Seal, according to their different attribute. This Great 5 Attributes Reincarnation Seal was a peerless move. To the Qin clan, even the first stage would definitely be endlessly useful. When this Great 5 Attributes Reincarnation Seal was placed in the collection of the Qin clan, it would definitely be 100% the finale. It was a super collection that the Qin clan had never seen before. Therefore, the entire Qin clan realized that the encouragement from the head chief had given everyone a lot of expectations and reward. For the 2 sword formations, from the chief to the ordinary martial artists, they started to practice the sword formations. Qin Wushuang planned to arm the Qin clan to the teeth and not allow any black sheep to exist in the Qin clan. For the Qin clan to rise, all disciples of the Qin clan must be integrated into this fanatical atmosphere to disregard everything for the sect. Today I am so tired, I owe everyone a chapter, I will return it tomorrow. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 831. Qin Wushuang calculated that Xin Tianwen should have almost recovered from his injuries. In less than a month, the Xin clan would certainly make a comeback. Qin Wushuang rather hoped that Xian Yuanwei would arrive earlier. It was because the situation he set up was a trap. Once Xian Yuanwei was trapped, it would be difficult for him to not step out. By borrowing the power of Xian Yuanwei, he would not allow the Xin clan to use too many methods for now. It would buy precious time for the Qin clan to recover. Qin Wushuang was still confident. There were still 3.5 years until the Heavenly Emperor election. In these 3.5 years, if he could improve steadily, he would have 70% assurance to defeat Xin Tianwen in the Heavenly Emperor election. Now, when he was fighting against the Xin clan, he was not afraid of that Xin Tianwen. However, with such endless consumption, firstly, he could not train peacefully. Secondly, with the battle between the two tigers, perhaps in the end, it would be a situation where both sides would suffer. It would benefit the Yun clan. It would not matter if the Yun clan benefited. After all, the Yun clan was more pleasing to the eye than the Xin clan. They shared some history with the Qin clan. However, as Qin Wushuang was the newly appointed head chief, he intended to do more for the Qin clan. He wanted to seize the Heavenly Emperor's seat, the seat that had been lost for 2,000 years. This was the great wish of each disciple of the Qin clan. Qin Wushuang was a responsible man, for he knew how to weigh the severity of the situation. In fact, to put it bluntly, it was a continuation of the battle with Xin Tianwen. Now that the final battle had erupted, Qin Wushuang had less than 30% chance of winning. It was possible for the Qin clan to get rid of the crisis. However, if they were to rise up, they could not afford to lose this final battle. The Qin clan could not afford to lose even more than the Xin clan. For this punitive expedition, the Xin clan could find many excuses. With the Heavenly Emperor's seat, even if the other sects were somewhat suspicious, it would not affect their authority. However, for the Qin clan, once they lost, it would be the same as losing all their assets and the chance to turn their fate around. Therefore, after weighing the severity, Qin Wushuang still felt that delaying the final battle to gain more time was the wisest and the best way to keep a low profile. Xian Yuan Mound, Xian Yuan Divine Palace. When head chief Xian Yuanyang returned from the endless Eastern Sea, he gathered the elite warriors of the Xian Yuan clan to understand the latest situation of the Xian Yuan Mound. Head chief, the Golden Crow has escaped. Have we still not been able to destroy it after all these years? Xian Yuan Shao from the Xian Yuan clan could not help but ask. Seeing Xian Yuanyang's solemn expression, the hearts of the Xian Yuan clan's experts sank. The head sect master was such a heroic figure. When had he ever been in such low spirits? With a sigh, Xian Yuanyang said with a complicated tone, "In terms of power, the Golden Crow has already surpassed us sovereign experts. Although it has yet to break through the barrier of the genuine Supreme Tao stage and enter the Sky Supreme Tao stage, it is extremely close. Maybe it's limited by the rules of the continent, or maybe it's still missing something, but it's still unable to break through to the Heavenly Supreme Tao stage." To the Tianxian land, it was great news that the Golden Crow could not break through the barrier and enter the Heavenly Supreme Tao stage. However, Xian Yuanyang's tone appeared somewhat confused. Everyone knew that the head chief was sighing with emotion. It was too difficult to break through the barrier of the genuine Supreme Tao stage. To enter the Heavenly Supreme Tao stage and soar to the Galaxia, one could not see any light at all. For your information, not only did the Golden Crow want to dash for the Heavenly Supreme Tao stage, which one of these paramount totem elite warriors at the peak of the genuine Supreme Tao stage did not want to dash for the Heavenly Supreme Tao stage. However, the path to the Heavenly Supreme Tao stage was filled with layers of fog. They could not see a trace of hope. Therefore, Xian Yuanyang's tone sounded somewhat depressed. "Head chief, It's not a bad thing that the Golden Crow cannot break into the Heavenly Supreme Tao stage. Once it enters the Heavenly Supreme Tao stage, it will be incredible. Perhaps the Tianxian land will enter an eternal calamity. Ha ha, the cycle of the natural law has its own destiny. It's impossible for the Golden Crow to be the only one ruling and the other elite warriors to be powerless. If the Golden Crow can break into the Heavenly Supreme Tao stage, once the heavenly secrets are opened, the other elite warriors at the peak of the genuine Supreme Tao stage will also be affected. Perhaps they will all break through. Xian Yuan Shao nodded thoughtfully. That's right. Head Chief, how is the situation with the Golden Crow now? Isn't it still the same? Xian Yuan Yang smiled bitterly and helplessly. No one can do anything to the Golden Crow. This vile beast is extremely cunning. When the Paramount Totem elite warriors joined hands, it fled upon hearing the news. If it was alone, it would be stronger than any of the Paramount elite warriors in a one-on-one fight. Now, only 2 Paramount elite warriors joining hands can fight against the Golden Crow. To put the Golden Crow in a disadvantageous position, we must have 3 Paramount Totem elite warriors joining hands. After a dozen years of running around, the 6 totem powerhouses of the 5 forbidden spiritual zones have come to an agreement. 3 of them will form 2 groups and harass the Golden Crow to prevent it from training wholeheartedly. Now, the Xian Yuan Mound has a buy. Therefore, I am able to return to the Xian Yuan Divine Palace. It seems that these Paramount Totem elite warriors could not hold on any longer. That was why the situation of dividing the work had occurred. Head Chief, this division of work is equivalent to fighting passively. It's not a solution to continue wasting time, one of the Xian Yuan Totem elite warriors said. Indeed, it's not a solution, but it's the only way. Clearly, Xian Yuan Yang also felt helpless. Even with the 6 of us joining hands, we cannot take it down. Rather than wasting time, it's better to divide the work. In that case, at least we will have some free time. Now, everyone has a tacit understanding and will waste time until the God Discarding Door opens. God Discarding Door. When they arrived at the God Discarding Door, all totem elite warriors of the Xian Yuan clan revealed a solemn expression. A look of fascination emerged from their eyes. The God Discarding Door would open slightly every 3,000 years, moderately every 6,000 years, and completely every 9,000 years. Now, there were only a dozen or so years left until the opening of the Wheel of Fate that happened once every 9,000 years. Regarding the God Discarding Door, the secular powerhouses outside of the Totem clan did not know much. However, the Totem clan knew a great deal about it. They all knew that it was a turning point filled with opportunities. It was a crucial deadline to change the fate of the Tianxian land. Especially the grand opening that occurred once every 9,000 years, it was the #1 grand occasion in the Tianxian land. Any totem powerhouse in the Tianxian land would have a grand occasion similar to the 10,000-year pilgrimage pageant at the Illusion Heavenly Lake. However, compared to the opening of the God Discarding Door, these grand occasions were unavoidably inferior. Therefore, those Paramount Totem elite warriors planned to delay until the opening of the God Discarding Door. A dozen years of stalemate also caused them to slack off. All right, although the Golden Crow is ferocious, as long as we restrain it, the temporary harm will only be partial. Everyone, don't worry too much. Even if we cannot kill the Golden Crow, we will not let it wreak havoc. On the contrary, I heard that the situation inside the Xian Yuan Mound is extremely unstable. Xian Yuan Yang stopped to look at Xian Yuan Zhao's face. During the time he was not at the sect, Xian Yuan Shao was the core of the Xian Yuan Divine Palace to take care of related matters. Upon hearing Xian Yuan Yang's question, Xian Yuan Shao gave a helpless sigh. The conflict between the Heavenly Emperor Xian clan and the Qin clan is becoming more and more intense. With this speed of consumption, certainly the Heavenly Emperor 8 Gates will be greatly weakened after the Heavenly Emperor election. If it weren't for head sect master's repeated reminders, I would have ordered them to stop fighting. Ha ha, that's not necessary. Xian Yuanyang revealed an indifferent smile. It seemed that in his eyes, the conflict at the Heavenly Emperor Mountain was a small problem. Since ancient times, the Heavenly Emperor Eight Gates has been a military camp made of iron and flowing water. Besides the Yun clan, Qin clan, and Xian clan, for the other sects, there will be some changes during the Heavenly Emperor election held every 500 years. Competition can bring in new blood and allow them to maintain their competitiveness for a long time. Head Chief, but this time, it's truly different than before. How so? Xian Yuanyang was rather curious. This time, it seems the Heavenly Emperor Gate has suffered a great loss. This was a very rare occurrence in history. Usually, the Heavenly Emperor Gate is always the stronger party. Ha ha, isn't the Xian clan powerful? Xian Yuanyang asked with a laugh. The Xian clan is indeed powerful. However, this time they suffered a great loss. 2 of the 4 supreme Dao elite warriors died. I heard that Xian Tianwen also suffered severe injuries. They asked Saberbeard for help, but it was useless. Oh? This is rather interesting, injuring Xian Tianwen? Is it truly something that Qin Wushuang can do? Xian Yuanyang seemed to be extremely interested in this topic. Absolutely. Xian Yuan Shao was incredibly certain. It seems that for this Heavenly Emperor election, the Xian clan will give up their position. Xian Yuanyang gave a long sigh. Not only did I misjudge the Xian clan, I also misjudged the Qin clan. Only, I overestimated the Xian clan. However, everyone underestimated the Qin clan. At this moment, Xian Yuanwei was extremely annoyed as he interrupted. It's not that everyone underestimated the Qin clan, but an unexpected monstrous figure has appeared in the Qin clan. Without the appearance of that monstrous figure Qin Wushuang, the Qin clan could not have defeated the Xian clan. Is that so? Xian Yuanyang revealed a light smile. He stopped to look at Xian Yuanwei's face meaningfully for a moment, then slowly looked away. When the flames of war started at the Heavenly Emperor Mountain, I already told everyone to not get involved in worldly dispute. When I was at the Endless Eastern Sea, I heard from a few paramount totem elite warriors that the disciples of the Qin clan had arrived at their territory and complained that the Xian Yuan clan had interfered with the Heavenly Emperor Mountain competition. Also, there was a clear deviation in our stance as we helped Xian Tianwen in secret to deal with the Qin clan. When Xian Yuanyang spoke these words, he did not reveal a rich expression. However, with a low voice, a burst of serene light shot out from his eyes as if it could pierce through people. Although Xian Yuanwei was powerful before the head chief, he was somewhat unnatural. Junior Brother Wei, you stay for a moment. Everyone else leave. Remember, for the Heavenly Emperor Mountain competition, let them go with the flow. For the Heavenly Emperor election, let them perform their divine skills and do not get involved. When Xian Yuanyang gave the order, everyone did not dare to neglect as they nodded and left. When Xian Yuanwei was left alone, he felt somewhat nervous. Among the Xian Yuan clan, he was arrogant and untamed. Yet, he restrained his fear towards Xian Yuanyang. Especially when Xian Yuanyang had warned him alone to not play any little trick. Now, if he stayed to talk alone, without thinking, he would certainly be exposed. With blazing eyes, the head chief already knew about his position in the Heavenly Emperor Mountain competition. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 832. When Xian Yuanyang was serious, certainly Xian Yuanwei would not be able to play any trick. Among the Totem clan, the paramount Totem elite warriors were supreme and their authority could not be challenged. He explained everything in full detail and did not conceal the slightest detail. This time, Xian Yuan Yang did not berate him with harsh words like last time. Instead, he gave a light sigh and shook his head helplessly. Junior brother Wei, you should know that none of them can match your talent. However, your unruly personality has affected your progress in climbing up the ladder. If you cannot even let go of a little loss, how could you set your sights on the vast galaxy? Could it be your goal is only to dominate the Tianxian land? To you, are you truly unable to let go of that graceful spiritual bow? Xian Yuan Wei's face was thoroughly red. If it were someone else lecturing him like this, most likely he would have already left or even refuted on the spot. However, before Xian Yuan Yang, he would not dare to act rashly. He twitched his mouth helplessly. Head Chief, since things have come to this point, I have no chance to stop. The problem is, do you truly want to stop? Xian Yuan Yang glared at Xian Yuan Wei's eyes with a stern gaze. You can tell me directly whether you cannot stop or you cannot let go of your pride as a totem elite warrior. Before a disciple of the Qin clan, you cannot let go of your status and do not want to stop. For this question, you must tell me after you understand it clearly. This question was rather incisive as it directly hit Xian Yuan Wei's heart. Are you unable to stop, or do you not want to stop? Xian Yuan Wei's expression was somewhat unsightly. Indeed, the head chief had hit the nail on the head and hit the vital point. When Xian Yuan Wei said he could not stop, in the end, he was somewhat suspicious of finding an excuse. The fact that he did not want to stop was 70 to 80% of the reason. Xian Yuan Yang did not wait for Xian Yuan Wei to answer. It seemed he knew this question was too difficult for Xian Yuan Wei to answer. Instead, he said directly, Junior brother Wei, you know that I sent you to that place to let you stay there and see your true nature. I had high expectations for you. In the future, after I step down, the only ones qualified to inherit the orthodoxy of the Xian Yuan clan will be you and Xian Yuan Shao. Deep in my heart, I think more highly of you. Unfortunately, in the end, your temperament could not be sharpened? Xian Yuan Wei felt ashamed and was speechless. This was the first time that he realized that he had always thought that the head sect master's personality was weak. Turned out that it was a big misunderstanding. Tell me, how do you plan to deal with this matter? For the first time, Xian Yuan Yang didn't reprimand Xian Yuan Wei. Instead, he asked with a smiling tone. Xian Yuan Wei couldn't withstand his amiable tone. Head sect master, he. Xian Yuan Yang chuckled. Little brother Wei, this isn't like you. Alright, don't be nervous. Think about it slowly and give me an answer. After a moment of silence, Xian Yuan Wei said, Head Chief, why don't we cancel the bet between me and Qin Wushuang? If he wants to return the Nirvana Heavenly Plow, he can do whatever he wants. This is really too convenient for that kid. Let him off easy? Xian Yuan Yang smiled and said, You used the Nirvana Heavenly Plow to cut off the aspiring Throne Mountain's spirit vein. It's perfectly justified for them to keep your weapon. In fact, the Qin clan already restrained themselves by not taking this thing to complain about you. Little brother Wei, this time, if I didn't try my best to suppress this matter, it would be difficult to explain when the other totem powerhouses asked about it. It's a great taboo for the totem powerhouses to get involved in secular dispute. Not only would the other totem powerhouses find an excuse to attack together, I am afraid a rebellious mentality would emerge from our own Xian Yuan Mound. Fortunately, the Golden Crow's rampage attracted the attention of the other totem powerhouses. Or else, it would have been a great trouble if they had clung onto it tightly. Clearly, Xian Yuan Wei also knew that he did not handle this matter meticulously. He overlooked a lot of things and caused some trouble for the Xian Yuan clan. Xian Yuan Wei said helplessly, In fact, that kid of the Qin clan is too unexpected. Head Chief, could it be that the paramount controllers of the Tianxian land truly think highly of that Qin Wushuang? The attitude of the controllers is vague. It's not true that they think highly of him. I think that everything will depend on Qin Wushuang's luck. At the level of the controllers, clearly it's impossible for them to pay too much attention to one person. You see that the Qin clan has been in a hopeless situation for so long. Within the rules, have the controllers ever gotten involved? Unless someone breaks the rules, such as you getting involved privately, or the Heavenly Emperor Xin clan dealing with the martial artists of the human countries. Xian Yuan Wei nodded. That's good. If the controllers think highly of Qin Wushuang, they will give him endless care. By that time, it would be unavoidable for everyone to work for him. When the god-discarding door opens, could it be they would not let him go through the back door? Go through the back door? Xian Yuan Yang laughed. Little brother Wei, your way of thinking is too strange. I can tell you clearly that perhaps the controllers think highly of Qin Wushuang. However, it's impossible for them to let him go through the back door. Perhaps the controllers will deliberately increase the difficulty for him. If the controllers think highly of Qin Wushuang, of course they will train him. The best training would be to keep him in a crisis and to keep growing stronger. This would be a powerful spur. If they set up a layer of protection to protect him before the battle starts, could they still achieve their goal of nurturing him? In the end, can the controllers maintain absolute fairness? The controllers are always fair. Or else, they would not be in charge of such an important place like the god-discarding door. Little brother Wei, at the level of the controllers, there's no need for them to cheat. Their minds would not be entangled with these small gains and losses. The controllers are scheming for the greater good. Xian Yuan Wei fell into deep thought and nodded thoughtfully. Head Chief, for Qin Wushuang, are we really giving him the Nirvana Heavenly Plough? Xian Yuan Wei could not refrain himself from asking. Haha, little brother Wei, in the end you still cannot let go of that Nirvana Heavenly Plough. However, since you can't even get it back, certainly that kid does not plan to give you face. Fine, I'll make a trip there on your behalf and resolve this grudge. I will get the Nirvana Heavenly Plough back for you. If Qin Wushuang inherited the immemorial formation, he should have a lot of treasures. He may not necessarily need the Nirvana Heavenly Plough. When Xian Yuan Wei heard that Xian Yuan Yang was going for it personally, he could not help but be shocked. Head Chief, is this appropriate? Little brother Wei, the Nirvana Heavenly Plough is your precious treasure. If I don't get it back for you, you will have an inner demon. This time I will go for it. Head Chief. Xian Yuan Wei finally understood the head chief's good intentions and selflessness. The more he thought about it, the more ashamed he felt. However, Qin Wushuang is arrogant and unruly. His character is also very tough. Even if I go, it may not be effective. Forget it, I will talk to Brotherly. If Brotherly can speak for me, Qin Wushuang will definitely give you face. The more Xian Yuan Yang knew about the inside story, the more he would not dare to look down on Qin Wushuang. Since he knew that Qin Wushuang was someone Li Bai thought highly of, Xian Yuan Yang could not use his identity as the paramount totem elite warrior to suppress him. He could only ask for the Nirvana Heavenly Plough to ask for a favor, and not to use his big butt to suppress him. If he used his big butt to suppress him, it would not benefit the Xian Yuan clan at all. Even if they could make things difficult for the Qin clan through other channels, the trouble the Xian Yuan clan would encounter would not be small. After weighing the severity, this matter could only be solved through a favor. Since Li Bai received Xian Yuan Yang's request, he did not put on too much airs. Instead, he agreed with a smile. Inwardly, he was incredibly happy. That kid Wushuang never let me down. Starting from the human countries, in less than 20 years, he achieved such a scene. Even Xian Yuan Yang could not use his identity to suppress him. Of course, this was related to the Xian Yuan clan's restraint. Regardless, since he was able to lead the situation to the Xian Yuan clan, at least it proved that this kid used his brain and did not act recklessly. Ha ha, good one, Indeed, the inheritor of the 7 deadly arrays formation is not an ordinary figure. Great! Li Bai felt gratified. For all these years at the Tian Xian land, he had been traveling around and observing the disciples of all the major forbidden spiritual zones. It could be said that overall, he was not optimistic about the development of the young generation of the major forbidden spiritual zones at the Tian Xian land. The appearance of Qin Wushuang was definitely an exception and an unexpected surprise. This could not help but attract more attention from Li Bai. Upon receiving Li Bai's affirmative answer, Xian Yuanyang knew that the return of the Nirvana heavenly plough was almost certain. Or else, he truly did not have much assurance. The identity of the inheritor of the immemorial formation also caused Xian Yuanyang to restrain his fear. As long as he inherited the immemorial formation, he would have the opportunity to ride on top of the Tian Xian land. This also decided that one day, Qin Wushuang would be qualified to be on par with Xian Yuanyang, or even surpass him. There was a saying that one should bully the old, but not the young. He had prepared sufficient amounts for the spiritual stones and soil of the Xian Yuan land that Qin Wushuang had requested. Now, Xian Yuanyang departed from the Xian Yuan Divine Palace and flew towards the aspiring throne mountain. When the paramount elite warrior stepped out, it was impossible for the outside world to grasp any movements. When he arrived before the aspiring throne mountain sect, Xian Yuanyang observed for a moment from the sky. Inwardly, he was also somewhat impressed. The underground spiritual ley lines of the Qin clan were destroyed, yet they were able to restore it. After incorporating the transformation, their power is even greater than before. This is rare. Indeed, this Qin Wushuang is a talent. When Xian Yuanyang thought here, an idea emerged in his mind. All right, although it's a friendly negotiation to ask for a favor, I cannot let the Qin clan feel that the authority of the Xian Yuan clan can be offended casually. Anyways, even if I reveal some skills today, I will let Qin Wushuang know that there is always someone better than him. When he thought here, Xian Yuanyang's entire body transformed into a burst of cool breeze and merged into the sky completely. Traces of his aura dissipated and in a moment, he had infiltrated the core of the Qin clan, completely ignoring the 8 Desolation and 6 Directions mountain protecting formation. Although the 8 Desolation and 6 Directions formation was powerful, in the end it could not resist the supreme divine skill at the peak of the genuine supreme Tao stage. For Xian Yuanyang's divine skill that was close to the void, most likely even Qin Shaotian could not imagine it. With the defense of the Qin clan, of course they could not stop it. Unless Qin Wushuang completely refined the mustard seed space. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 833. Currently, Qin Wushuang was training the 9 great golem puppets at the wide area of the ascending dragon slope. Combined with the 9 palace return 1 sword formation, he trained in an orderly manner. Suddenly, Qin Wushuang's ears moved. His mind trembled and he almost cried out. With a sweep of his sleeve, he put away the 9 great golem puppets. A wave of dense fog gushed out from all directions and turned the entire area into fog to confuse the senses. He stood up abruptly and could not refrain himself from touching the graceful spiritual bough with both hands. Despite this fact, a form of instinctive fear still made his divine soul throb uncontrollably. Someone was approaching, an elite warrior, an extremely powerful elite warrior, an exceptional elite warrior that could ignore the defense of the Qin clan. The first thought that emerged in Qin Wushuang's mind was a paramount totem elite warrior. Only a paramount totem elite warrior could conceal himself this well. However, although he could suppress his presence and aura, the only thing that could not be suppressed was a form of direct resonance and perception from a supreme Tao elite warrior. If Qin Wushuang did not rely on this resonance of the supreme Tao, he could almost not sense the existence of the other party. "Ha ha, young man, no need to be nervous." Xian Yuan Yang's gentle voice sounded next to Qin Wushuang's ears. Like a peaceful movement, it made Qin Wushuang's surging murderous intentions weaken uncontrollably. "Who are you?" Qin Wushuang shouted with a stern voice. With a stern shout, the voice broke through the valley and spread across the entire aspiring throne mountain. Clearly, at the same time that Qin Wushuang berated the enemy, his intention was to use this form to inform the other clansmen. Unexpectedly, before he could send his voice out, it was as if a wave of invisible power had suppressed it back. There were barriers on all four sides, and it had restricted Qin Wushuang's voice to a radius of less than 1 mile. Despite the waves of echoes, he could not send his voice out. To use such great divine skill to suppress the voice, the method of this person made Qin Wushuang feel a wave of powerlessness. Too powerful. Among the enemies he had encountered, most likely only the Golden Crow could be mentioned on equal terms with this person before him. For the power of the Golden Crow, Qin Wushuang did not have the slightest power to resist. Initially at the endless Eastern Sea, at the rushing current valley, it was the Golden Ray Dragon King who loved talent and helped Qin Wushuang to restrain the Golden Crow. Or else, Qin Wushuang would have been taken care of by the Golden Crow. "Qin Wushuang, brother Qin. This old man, Xian Yuanyang, has come to visit." Xian Yuanyang smiled and said half-jokingly, "Why are you welcoming me in this way?" "Xian Yuanyang." Qin Wushuang naturally knew what these 3 words meant. That was the absolute authority of the Xian Yuan Mound, the supreme figure that controlled the life and death of all people in the Xian Yuan Mound. However, what was the intention of this paramount elite warrior coming to the Qin clan? If they were here to denounce him, they shouldn't be so amiable, right? While Qin Wushuang was hesitating, Xian Yuanyang said with a smile, "Young man, this time, as an elder, I have come to visit a rising star of my Xian Yuan Mound. Put away your enmity." Upon hearing these words, Qin Wushuang felt slightly relaxed. He instinctively realized that this Xian Yuanyang had no need to deceive him. If Xian Yuanyang had come to denounce him, with his strength, he could tear the mountain protection formation of the Qin clan into pieces directly. There was no need for him to use such an obscure method. "Sir Yang, please forgive me for my lack of etiquette. Would you like to speak at the Upright Morality Hall?" "Ha ha, I will not go to the Upright Morality Hall. Let's just chat here. By the way, I have come today with a presumptuous request." It's here." Qin Wushuang revealed a light smile as he knew that Xian Yuanyang had come to ask for the Nirvana Heavenly Plough. Most likely Xian Yuanwei did not have the courage to come, so he had asked the paramount totem elite warrior to come? Regarding the Nirvana Heavenly Plough, although it was a good thing, Qin Wushuang was not determined to get it. If Xian Yuanyang had always used such a negotiating tone, of course Qin Wushuang understood the principle of respecting the totem powerhouse. Inwardly, he was somewhat impressed by Xian Yuanyang's bearing. At least, he was much easier to talk to than that careless Xian Yuanwei. "Sir Yang, have you come for that Nirvana Heavenly Plough?" Xian Yuanyang laughed. "Straightforward, it's good for a young man to not be secretive." "That's right, I have come for the Nirvana Heavenly Plough. The Xian Yuan spiritual stones and Xian Yuan living soil you want, I have enough to give it to you. It's also a token of appreciation from the Xian Yuan clan to nurture young people. Although the Nirvana Heavenly Plough is good, I think you will not be too attached to the gains and losses of a supreme Tao weapon, right?" These words were magnanimous, graceful, and did not drop his status. On the contrary, it increased Qin Wushuang's favorable impression of him. Qin Wushuang said with a smile, "Since Sir Yang has come for the Nirvana Heavenly Plough, there should be a procedure for how to end this matter, right? If there is, please ask for instructions." "Haha, what kind of procedure do you need?" Xian Yuanyang asked. Firstly, the Xian Yuan clan must not interfere with the competition of the Heavenly Emperor Mountain. Secondly, for the Heavenly Emperor election, the Xian Yuan clan must guarantee to start the battle under a completely fair and just situation. Thirdly, to take away the Nirvana Heavenly Plough, not to mention exchanging it with something of equal value. In the end, this Nirvana Heavenly Plough damaged the foundation of the aspiring throne mountain. You will only take it away with some compensation. If you can promise these three things, the Qin clan will return the Nirvana Heavenly Plough with both hands. We can also conceal the things Sir Wei has done. Qin Wushuang did not ask for an exorbitant price. Although he was not afraid of the Totem clan, he did not wish to have a complete falling out with the Xian Yuan clan. Thus, he adopted a slightly lower stance. However, to be able to negotiate with the Xian Yuan clan was to show off his status. It would greatly increase the position of the Qin clan. Or else, with the position of the Qin clan, to negotiate with the Xian Yuan clan would be a disgraceful and outrageous behavior in the past. After a moment of silence, Xian Yuan Yang said with an indifferent tone, "Young man, in the history of the Xian Yuan Mound, not many people have negotiated with the Xian Yuan clan. In the past few thousand years, you are the first. The first and second items are something you ought to do, they are not conditions. As for the third item, considering the inappropriate behavior of my subordinate, it's reasonable to make some compensation. I gave you the Xian Yuan spiritual stones and the Xian Yuan living soil. Could it be that it's not enough? Lord Yang, these two items are for me personally. The Qin clan should also gain something. Or else, it would be difficult for Wushuang to explain it to them. Sir Yang, your Xian Yuan clan has a rich foundation. It would be enough for the Qin clan to be overjoyed if you were to bestow some. Sir Yang, don't be too stingy." Qin Wushuang said it with a joking tone to prevent Xian Yuan Yang from flying into a rage. Xian Yuan Yang said with a helpless and bitter smile, "Such a crafty kid, it's no wonder even Xin Tianwen suffered a loss at your place. Anyways, certainly you don't have any better goods. 1 Supreme Dao armor, 3 Supreme Dao weapons. This is my bottom line. You don't need to bargain, it's settled." At this moment, Xian Yuan Yang could not help but display the prestige of the Totem clan. He grasped the scale well and made Qin Wushuang embarrassed to make more requests. Ever since Xian Yuan Yang came to his door, Qin Wushuang knew that he could not keep the Nirvana Heavenly Plough. Not to mention a moment ago, he received Li Bai's spiritual perception talisman. He told him not to get carried away, to pay attention to the scale, and not to overstep the boundary. This reminder also made Qin Wushuang realize that being the paramount totem elite warrior, it was already rare for Xian Yuan Yang to not display a high and mighty attitude. Since Xian Yuan Yang offered an additional price, although to the current Qin Wushuang, 1 Supreme Dao armor and 3 Supreme Dao weapons could not refrain from appearing somewhat shabby, to the Qin clan, this was not a small gain. At least, it could be explained. When Xian Yuan Yang came to his door, he did not suppress or threaten the Qin clan. Instead, he used goods to exchange for the Nirvana Heavenly Plough. To the Qin clan, this was definitely a situation where they felt overwhelmed by favor. It was a situation they did not even dare to think about. Thinking here, Qin Wushuang did not act pretentious. "All right, since Sir Yang is this straightforward, I will not play any trick. Now let's exchange. Sir Yang will not deceive a young man like me, right?" "Haha kid, you are rather crafty." Both parties did not play any tricks and each took what they needed. The exchange process was incredibly smooth. When he handed over the Nirvana Heavenly Plough, Qin Wushuang was more or less feeling the pain. Initially, when he destroyed the formation of the Nirvana Heavenly Plough, he also spent a lot of effort. Now when he took it back, of course he felt the pain. Even if it was not his own, he would have feelings for it after raising it for a long time. Not to mention it was the best goods. Although these were also rare treasures, compared to the Nirvana heavenly plow, there was a huge difference. Fortunately, there were the Xian Yuan spiritual stones and the Xian Yuan life soil as compensation. These were the things Qin Wushuang needed urgently. For the foundation of the 5 attributes, Qin Wushuang only lacked the earth and water attribute. He had yet to congeal the supreme Tao essence. Now with these 2 goods, the earth attribute would not be much of a problem. He only needed time. Seeing Qin Wushuang put away the things properly, Xian Yuanyang suddenly shot a few glances at Qin Wushuang with a smile that was not a smile and clicked his tongue as he said, "Young man, you actually congealed metal, wood, and fire, 3 types of supreme Tao essence. Seems like the wood attribute is especially refined, which is rather hard to come by. You want this earth spirit stone and life soil. Could it be that you plan on congealing the earth attribute essence? Ha ha, young man, you wouldn't be a genius with all 5 elements, right?" Qin Wushuang answered with a slight smile, neither denying nor admitting. However, this expression and smile undoubtedly gave a silent and positive answer. Xian Yuanyang's gaze turned cold, and he muttered to himself, "The water attribute supreme Tao essence is very difficult to refine. Because the water attribute is the most scattered among the 5 elements, and also the hardest to condense the supreme Tao essence. However, the extreme north snow region's mysterious underworld race has the mysterious underworld ice soul and blue wave great swamp water, these kinds of divine items. They can have the same effect as my life soil and earth spirit stone. Young man, since you are in such a rush to congeal the essence, could it be you are preparing for the heavenly emperor election in 3 years?" Qin Wushuang laughed. Since the Qin clan is a sect of the heavenly emperor mountain, of course the heavenly emperor election will be the main event in the next few years. Only, the Xian clan has not given up on destroying the Qin clan. Perhaps, before the heavenly emperor election in 3 years, we will have a decisive battle ahead of time. Or else, Xian Yuanyang said with a smile, "Today, I have come to ask the Qin clan and the Xian clan to stop fighting for now. Regardless of how many divine skills and methods you have, stop fighting for now. In 3 years, you will show off your divine skills at the heavenly emperor election. It will strengthen the image of the heavenly emperor mountain. Now, private fighting has become a disaster and is not proper. The outside world will surely laugh at the Xian Yuan mound." Qin Wushuang remained silent and smacked the flavor of Xian Yuanyang's words. He said, "If the Xian clan can wait patiently for 3 years, the Qin clan can also afford to wait. It would be nice to settle the old and new debts at that time." "Ha ha, great idea, great idea." As Xian Yuanyang spoke, his voice suddenly rumbled like thunder. It continued endlessly and occupied the entire aspiring throne mountain. It circled a few times like the head and tail of an elder before disappearing from the aspiring throne mountain like a tide. Qin Wushuang was disappointed and frustrated. In his mind, there were only the 2 terms, the mysterious underworld ice soul and the blue wave great swamp water. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 834. Clearly, Xian Yuanyang's last move was to show off his power and intimidate the Qin clan. He wanted to show the presence of the totem Xian Yuan clan. Of course, Qin Wushuang saw through his intentions clearly. He only revealed a light smile and did not take it to heart. Currently, the Xian Yuan clan was the ruler of the Xian Yuan mound. It was understandable for them to show their presence. Since this Xian Yuanyang did not suppress him with a lofty attitude, of course Qin Wushuang must show him some respect. However, the other members of the Qin clan could not refrain from feeling terrified. Upon hearing Xian Yuanyang's tyrannical voice that almost shattered their divine soul, even the expression of Qin Shaotian, who was in solitary training, changed drastically. When he saw the disciples of the Qin clan running out from all over the mountain, Qin Wushuang smiled calmly and called out, "Everyone, don't panic, go back." Qin Yunran asked curiously, "Wushuang, a moment ago that person clearly entered our mountain gate. How come there was no reaction from the mechanism of the mountain gate protecting formation?" Qin Chongyang was also abnormally astonished. "This person ignored our 8 desolation and 6 directions mountain protecting formation. Just who is it?" "Don't worry, no more than 10 people from the Tianxian land can ignore our mountain protecting formation. This person is the paramount elite warrior of the Xian Yuan Mound. It's Sir Xian Yuan Yang." Each of the supreme Dao elite warriors of the Qin clan drew a breath of cold air. Reverence emerged from their eyes. Although the Qin clan feared nothing, the reputation of the paramount totem elite warrior was enough to intimidate others. "It's him." Qin Wushuang revealed an indifferent smile. Qin Yunran and Qin Chongyang exchanged a glance, for they were greatly astonished. What is he doing here? Considering that Xian Yuan Wei was rebuffed, could it be this Xian Yuan Yang came to suppress the Qin clan? Or to demonstrate his power and warn them? He didn't do anything, just made an exchange. Qin Wushuang revealed a light smile and handed over the bargaining chips given by Xian Yuan Yang. "This Supreme Dao armor and 3 Supreme Dao weapons, you can take them. Regardless of storing them in the treasury or distributing them to your disciples, you can make the decision. As for the Xian Yuan spiritual stones and Xian Yuan polyp, I will take them since I have a use for them." Besides, he also promised a truce. Unfortunately, the Nirvana heavenly plough was taken back by him. Thinking about the Nirvana heavenly plough, Qin Wushuang more or less felt that it was a pity. However, Xian Yuan Yang had personally made a trip there. It was obviously not the right time to take this thing for himself. Qin Wushuang was not afraid of anything. However, since the Qin clan had such a huge foundation, he could not ignore the foundation of the Qin clan because of his greed for a treasure. "Head Chief, how can we do that?" The Nirvana heavenly plough was subdued by Qin Wushuang and returned to the Xian Yuan clan. Naturally, the items that were exchanged for should belong to Qin Wushuang. If they stretched out their hands, their nails would look too long. Now, Qin Wushuang was no longer that young disciple, but the head chief of the Qin clan. There was still a difference between Qin Yunran and Qin Chongyang. Qin Wushuang, on the other hand, didn't really care about it. Things like Supreme Dao armor and Supreme Dao weapons could no longer stir up much of a ripple in his heart. Although he wasn't the richest person in the world, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was rich. It was impossible for these little things to move him. "You too, I no longer have a use for these things. More or less, I have some personal collection. Now, the Qin clan is heading towards a rising period and we need equipment. Don't be so polite." Now, Qin Yunran and Qin Chongyang felt reassured and took it. Qin Chongyang was still concerned about another matter. After he took these things, he asked again, "Head Chief, earlier you said that Sir Yang promised a truce agreement. What's going on?" "He wants to return the Nirvana heavenly plough wholeheartedly. He said it's to mediate between the Xian clan and the Qin clan, to stop the war temporarily. After the Heavenly Emperor election in 3 years, we will decide the victor." 3 years later? Everyone in the Qin clan felt relieved. 3 years, this was a 3-year buffer period like sunshine and rain. With these 3 years, the Qin clan could use this opportunity to catch up head-on and welcome a blowout period for the clan. Currently, the Qin clan did not lack good seedlings or trump cards, they only lacked time. If they could delay the final battle to 3 years later, it would be a great thing. After this matter, they were even more convinced of Qin Wushuang taking over as the head chief. Indeed, after Qin Wushuang took over, there was great momentum. Even the arrival of the paramount elite warrior of the Xian Yuan clan could not make the Qin clan bow down. When they took back the Nirvana heavenly plough, they must exchange it with something. Although this might not be an equivalent exchange. Regardless, for the things the Xian Yuan clan wanted, which of the Heavenly Emperor Eight Gates would dare to not offer them obediently? Only the Qin clan could snatch food from the tiger's mouth and fish some benefit. Especially this truce promise was even rarer. Everyone knew that the previous attitude of the Xian Yuan clan was unfavorable to the Qin clan. Now, with the Xian Yuan clan being willing to mediate, to the Qin clan, it was definitely a timely help. The Qin clan needed these 3 years to concentrate on training and amaze the world with a single brilliant feat now. The Qin clan was waiting for this opportunity to erupt in 3 years and seize the Heavenly Emperor seat again. In these 3 years they needed to brew a burst of energy. After Qin Wushuang had arranged all major and minor matters, he gathered all the chiefs and said, "Everyone, today I have some important matters to attend to and must make a trip to the north. I will make it back before the Heavenly Emperor election in 3 to 5 months, or 1 to 2 years. Even if that Xian Tianwen has enormous guts, he will not go against the will of the paramount totem elite warrior. Therefore, in these 3 years, the Qin clan will conceal our strength and bide our time. Do not go out and cause trouble. After the 3 years of dormancy, we will amaze the world with a single brilliant feat." Young people were always filled with a form of vitality. After Qin Wushuang became the head chief, he brought a lot of vitality to the Qin clan. Especially these words full of vitality were the best spiritual chicken blood. It added a lot of warmth to the already cold blood of these old guys. From time to time, it would let them experience what it meant to have their blood boil. Moved by Qin Wushuang's emotional words, each of them nodded. When the head chief goes out to gain experience, of course we must guard the door. In 3 years, the Qin clan will show our power and seize the Heavenly Emperor seat again. Yes, the Qin clan must get the Heavenly Emperor seat. The strength of the Qin clan will never die. When Qin Wushuang saw a group of old guys were busy encouraging him, he also found it interesting. "Alright, everyone, for internal matters I am reassured with you guys. Tomorrow morning I will head out. Everyone will work together and fight for the future of the Qin clan." After Xian Yuanyang circled around the Heavenly Emperor Mountain, he returned to the Xian Yuan Divine Palace. Inside the Heavenly Emperor Gate, Xian Tianwen's injuries were already healed. He also had a breakthrough in strength. In these 3 or 4 months, not only did he heal his injuries, he was also sensing the 3rd calamity of the genuine Supreme Tao stage. Currently, he was at the 2nd calamity of the genuine Supreme Tao stage. This time, his injuries allowed him to grasp the traces of the 3rd calamity. If he could pass the 3rd calamity in one spurt of energy, when all 3 little calamities of the genuine Supreme Tao stage were completed, he would enter a brand new stage. It would be the middle stage of the genuine Supreme Tao stage. This would definitely be the same progress as reaching a higher level. Those at the genuine Supreme Tao stage that had passed 3 calamities would definitely not be mentioned in the same breath as those within the 3 calamities. However, just when he was exerting all his strength to dash for the 3rd calamity, Xian Yuanyang came uninvited. He ordered him to stop the battle and prepare for the Heavenly Emperor election in 3 years. Without a doubt, this order was a wake-up call and a bucket of cold water poured over him from head to toe. It appeared that the paramount totem elite warrior was only giving an order. However, behind this order, there were too many profound principles. This was the attitude of the totem clan. It was also a form of attitude and a hint. To the Xian clan, if they did not seize the opportunity to strangle the Qin clan to death, in 3 years, without a doubt the Qin clan would appear with a stronger appearance. To the Qin clan, the later the decisive battle, the better. To the Xian clan, the sooner the decisive battle, the better. The Qin clan could afford to drag it out, yet the Xian clan could not. After a few major battles, the Xian clan's wealth had been depleted even more and more thoroughly. This time, to besiege the Qin clan, not only did the Xian clan sacrifice 2 supreme Dao elite warriors, many young elite warriors of the clan also died. In 3 years, it was impossible for the Xian clan to make up for their losses. To restore the Xian clan's power, it would take at least a few hundred years. In these few hundred years, they must ensure the Xian clan sat on the heavenly emperor's seat, or else everything would be empty talk. With the current grudge between the Qin and the Xian clan, if the Qin clan sat on the heavenly emperor's seat, most likely they would attack the Xian clan first. This went without saying. Therefore, Xian Tianwen was well aware that the Xian clan could not afford to wait. Recently, he had been discussing with Saberbeard on how to attack the Qin clan and how to defeat them. Now, Saberbeard was also aware of the situation. It was the same as him wearing the same pants as Xian Tianwen. If the Qin clan were to deal with the Xian clan, Saberbeard would not be able to escape. After all, initially when they attacked the Qin clan, Saberbeard also had a share. Therefore, Saberbeard did not dare to neglect. After considering Qin Wushuang's monstrous performance, Saberbeard felt even more anxious and fearful from the bottom of his heart. Daoist Tianwen, what does Xian Yuanyang mean? Saberbeard was extremely dissatisfied. To the Xian Yuan clan, he did not respect them as much as the people of the Heavenly Emperor 8-Gate. Xian Tianwen felt extremely helpless. I also didn't expect that for such little matter, it's worth it for the Paramount Totem Elite Warrior to come to talk about it? Could it be that the Qin clan went to complain to the Xian Yuan clan? Humph, it's useless to say these words. Now let me ask you, what do you plan to do? If we sit and wait for 3 years, without a doubt we are nurturing a tiger and inviting calamity. Daoist Saberbeard, the Paramount Totem Elite Warrior is not a joke. No one dares to disobey his orders. Or else, with one thought, the Paramount Totem Elite Warrior can make the Xian clan collapse and turn you and me into ashes. We must not disobey him. Saberbeard gave a long sigh. 3 years, 3 years, suddenly, his eyes flashed as he raised his brow and asked, Daoist Tianwen, let me ask you the truth, in 3 years, how much assurance do you have to take care of that Qin Wushuang? Xian Tianwen opened his mouth, and wanted to throw out some ruthless words. However, after thinking carefully, in the end he did not dare to be overly arrogant. He said with a bitter smile, if it were other people of the Qin clan, I would not waste my time to think about it. However, that kid, he is a monstrous figure. His growth speed is too astonishing. I cannot imagine what kind of monstrous figure he will be in 3 years. Xian Tianwen's tone was incredibly bleak. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 835. For his entire life, Xian Tianwen had been a tyrant. Regardless of his words or actions, he was never willing to submit to others. Besides his boss, the Totem Xian Yuan clan, Xian Tianwen never submitted to anyone. However, this time, the sudden appearance of Qin Wushuang had forced him to speak some discouraging words. It was also from the bottom of his heart. For a young man that could injure him now, he could not predict how monstrous he would be in 3 years with his imagination. Saberbeard's long beard danced due to his exhalation. Judging from his expression, clearly he was extremely furious. However, there were traces of viciousness flashing across his eyes. Suddenly, a vicious light flashed across his eyes as he asked with a low voice, Daoist Tianwen, let me ask you. If after 3 years, the Xian clan cannot defeat the Qin clan, where will the fate of the Xian clan go? Where will we go? Xian Tianwen let out a bitter smile. If the Qin clan wins, without a doubt, the Xian clan will suffer a great blow. Even if we can preserve our orthodoxy, we will certainly be demoted to the 3rd rate. For sure, not a single Supreme Tao elite warrior will remain. I am afraid even elite warriors of the exquisite mysterious boundary stage will not let the Xian clan stay. Of course, if the Xian clan wins, certainly the Qin clan will not have good days. This is a decisive battle to the death. Xian Tianwen's tone was ruthless, yet it revealed a burst of resolute courage. Then what do you plan to do? Sit and wait for death, and wait for the judgment of fate in 3 years? Do you think, with the current situation of the Xian clan, what are your chances of winning in 3 years? Currently, besides Xian Tianwen and Xian Tianqian, the Xian clan had few talent. In terms of winning, it was next to nothing. Through normal methods, perhaps they could exhaust themselves to death with the Qin clan and both sides would suffer. However, to continue to defend the Heavenly Emperor seat, they would not only face competition from the Qin clan, but also the equally powerful and mysterious Yun clan. That Yun clan was no less difficult to deal with than the Qin clan. If there must be a difference, it would be that the Qin clan had an extra devilish Qin Wushuang. Taoist Saberbeard, just speak your mind, no need to beat around the bush. Xian Tianwen was slightly displeased. Saberbeard nodded. All right, then I will speak frankly. According to my observation, compared to the Qin clan, the current fortune of the Xian clan is no longer on the same level. Unless you and I join forces, we will have the opportunity to destroy the Qin clan. But Xian Yuanyang's order had already scared them out of their wit. This path was definitely not going to work. Then, after 3 years, to be honest, I think the probability of the Xian clan winning is no more than 30%. Xian Tianwen's facial muscles twitched as if someone had whipped him viciously. Saberbeard's words were unpleasant to hear, but they were the truth. Upon seeing Xian Tianwen remain silent, Saberbeard said again, Since we cannot make a move now, it seems there are only 2 choices before you. First, they would surrender now and withdraw from the Heavenly Emperor Mountain. From then on, the Xian clan would go into hibernation and not get involved with external affairs. They would use their weak and humble attitude to strive for the forgiveness of the Qin clan. This was a bad plan. 2. Wait for 3 years and fight with all your strength. Although there's only a 30% chance of success, if you fight with all your strength, there might be a 50% chance of success or failure. This is the middle strategy. Xian Tianwen's brow moved. Taoist Saberbeard's words seemed to have a hidden meaning. Could it be there is a better plan here? I do have a strategy, but I don't dare to boast about whether it's a good one. Let's see if Taoist Heavendao has the interest and courage to take a gamble. Oh? Tell me. Now, Xian Tianwen was grasping at straws. When he heard there was a strategy, his first thought was to speak it out. Come with me to the Heavenly Fire southern border. To the Heavenly Fire southern border? Why are we going there? Xian Tianwen could not help but ask. The Heavenly Fire southern border is known as the paradise for divine beasts. Although there are not as many divine beasts as the endless Eastern Sea, almost all of them have the bloodline of the Dragon clan. Therefore, it's not wrong that the paradise for divine beasts is at the Heavenly Fire southern border. There are 2 great totems at the Heavenly Fire southern border. One is the fire god Zhurong clan, and the other is the Divine Farmer clan. The Divine Farmer clan is represented by human martial artists. The fire god Zhurong clan is based on the Beast clan. Now, since those paramount totem elite warriors are at the endless Eastern Sea, it's the best time for you and me to travel the Heavenly Fire southern border. If we can find the immemorial ancient temple of the southern border and inherit some fortuitous opportunities, it would be extraordinary. Immemorial ancient temple, what is that? Haha, the ancient temple is a temple used for worship during the immemorial period. When the Beast clans built their foundation at the southern border, they were extremely mobile. Due to their high mobility and migration frequency, they built many ancient temples wherever they went. Now, most of these ancient temples are covered by the dust of history. The few that were dug out all have different fortuitous opportunities. I once acquired a clue 1,000 years ago. It's extraordinary. If we can find that ancient temple, I can guarantee that your Exian clan will prosper." His words made Exian Tianwen feel a rush of excitement. However, in the end, Exian Tianwen was an experienced person as he stared at Saberbeard. "Saberbeard, could it be that you just want to find a partner to travel the southern border, yet you are speaking with such extravagance?" "Humph, Dawas Tianwen, since you and I are in the same boat, I don't want to hide it from you. Yes, I want to find a helper, but this is a mutually beneficial matter. The power of your Exian clan will not affect me much. As long as there are benefits, there will be no harm. Now, our common enemy is Qin Wushuang. If we cannot subdue Qin Wushuang in the end, he will be a great threat. I feel extremely uncomfortable when it lies across my heart." Exian Tianwen asked, "Just what kind of fortuitous opportunities are there in that immemorial temple?" "This is hard to say. There are immemorial bloodlines, immemorial treasures, and perhaps immemorial secret techniques. If I can get my hands on a scroll of the ancient beast race's seal, I'll be rich." "Sealed scrolls?" Exian Tianwen was incredibly curious. "Is that a sealed beast?" "It's a seal beast, but it's not the seal beast you know. Usually, sealed scrolls come one at a time. I don't know how many sealed divine beasts there are." Saberbeard was beaming with joy as he instigated, "Dawas Tianwen, let me say the ugly words first. Certainly there will be danger on this trip. However, behind the high risk, there will be high rewards. Whether you go or not, it's up to you." Exian Tianwen said angrily, "Of course I will go. Sir Yang's order has caused my Exian clan to lose all initiative. If we wait for 3 years, the Exian clan will not have any chance of winning. Riches and honor come from danger. I will go." "Great. Straightforward," Saberbeard praised. "Dawas Tianwen, since you are this determined, I will also promise you that I will exert all my efforts to deal with the Qin clan. Besides, I also dare to promise that if we find that immemorial temple, I firmly believe that regardless of how much that kid has improved, you and I will have more than 70 to 80% chance of winning." Upon hearing about the 70 to 80% chance of winning, Exian Tianwen was instantly motivated. He gathered all his disciples, including those elite warriors of the Heavenly Punishing Villa and the Sound of Thunder sect. He instructed them to keep the secret and guard the mountain gate. Currently, both the Heavenly Punishing Villa and the Sound of Thunder sect had lost their Supreme Dao elite warriors. Each of them only had one Supreme Dao elite warrior left. For the Exian clan, besides Exian Tianwen, only Exian Tianchen, the younger brother of the emperor, was left. After Qin Wushuang had settled everything, he returned to the human countries with the 4 great divine beasts. He brought the ceasefire agreement to the Eastwood Qin clan and the heavenly royal mansion. Qin Lianshan was incredibly joyful. During this time, Murong Su's strength had also advanced by leaps and bounds. Of course, it was still too early for him to make a dash for the Supreme Dao stage. Qin Wushuang and Murong Su had not spent much time together. Since it was rare for them to reunite, of course they were deeply affectionate. Upon learning that Qin Wushuang was heading north to the extreme north snow zone, although Murong Su was reluctant to part with him, she understood the general situation. She laughed. "Just in time, since I've left my hometown for a long time, I also want to visit the floating snow house." Qin Wushuang said, "Just in time, I will pass by the floating snow house on my way to the extreme north snow zone. I will visit your father along the way and help the floating snow house incubate the other dragon egg with the immemorial phantom dragon bloodline." Now, Qin Wushuang was no longer an ignorant person. Since he possessed the immemorial phantom dragon bloodline and was an elite warrior at the transformation Supreme Dao stage, he was already qualified to incubate the egg. After bidding farewell to the heavenly royal mansion, he headed north. When the entire floating snow house learned that Miss had returned home with her future son-in-law, naturally everyone was jubilant. Murong Qianji was incredibly happy. Each of his clan brothers were also beaming with joy. Initially, they had opposed Murong Su's relationship with Qin Wushuang with all their efforts. Now they were all incredibly ashamed. When they thought about this matter with their high pillows when they slept at night, their faces were full of shame and it was too late for regrets. Initially, they had truly been blinded by lard, for they had opposed Murong Su's relationship with Qin Wushuang with such ferocious intensity. Currently, Qin Wushuang was already the head chief of the Qin clan despite his young age. For the time, his reputation was unparalleled. He had suppressed the limelight of all the young generation in the Tianxian land. Most importantly, the Qin clan had withstood the attack from the Heavenly Emperor party. After recovering their strength, they appeared to be thriving and developing vigorously. In the Heavenly Emperor election in 3 years, the Qin clan would have a great chance of regaining the Heavenly Emperor seat due to their rich accumulation. With all these factors, how could they not feel ashamed when they had opposed Qin Wushuang? Now, Qin Wushuang had come to their door again. Initially, they had remembered Qin Wushuang's words deeply. Qin Wushuang had once said that people of the floating snow house would regret it sooner or later when they opposed his relationship with Murong Su. One day, Qin Wushuang would make the floating snow house marry Murong Su respectfully and with great joy. It would be a grand affair. Initially, they felt those were the boastful words of a young man. Now, each word had become a reality. Qin Wushuang had done it, and indeed, they were regretting it through and through. Fortunately, Qin Wushuang possessed great self-restraint and seemed to have forgotten those old matters from many years ago. He did not mention or ask about them and did not lose his manners to these so-called seniors. On the other hand, how could they dare to be arrogant? They would not dare to receive the courtesy of a senior. The head chief of the Qin clan held a much higher position than them. What qualifications did they have to receive the courtesy of a junior from the head chief? Being Murong Qianji's future father-in-law, Qin Wushuang did not lose his manners. After taking out the dragon egg from the floating snow house, through Qin Wushuang's hard work, a baby dragon had truly hatched. The appearance of this baby dragon was almost the same as Ai Simo's. However, the obvious difference was the color. When Ai Simo was born, her entire body emitted purple air. However, this baby dragon was enshrouded by a dense green air that appeared incredibly rich. When everyone from the floating snow house saw the birth of the divine beast, each of them gasped in amazement. Their face was full of joy and surprise. For your information, the master of the floating snow house was an elite warrior of the Supreme Tao stage. Now, with the hatching of the dragon egg, another divine beast had been born. Instantly, the floating snow house had another Supreme Tao warrior. With 2 elite warriors of the Supreme Tao stage, this strength was enough to seize a spot in the Heavenly Emperor 8 Gates at the Heavenly Emperor Mountain pageant in 3 years. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 836. Ai Simo pounced over and rubbed her ears against the baby dragon. She appeared to be very familiar with her. Her head and tail bumped against each other, appearing very intimate. Suddenly, Ai Simo laughed. Haha, it's a little sister. Very good. I like little sisters the most. Hee, I want to give my little sister a name. Nan Nan. Ai Simo made a face at everyone unquestionably, as if her authority was not to be questioned. Qin Wushuang smiled slightly. This name is not bad. The 2 divine beasts looked like they were carved from jade and were extremely beautiful. Murong Su liked them very much and could not bear to part with them. Seeing the appearance of her compatriots, Mo Air's thoughts of going to the extreme north snow region became slack. Qin Wushuang saw through Mo Air's thoughts and said with a smile, Mo Air, your little sister has just been born. You will be responsible for taking care of her in the floating snow house and training her. Remember, you are the real compatriots of the same flesh and blood. You must love each other. Ai Simo laughed mischievously. All right, my long-winded father, you can rest assured and go to your extreme north snow region. Upon hearing Ai Simo call Qin Wushuang father, clearly the people of the floating snow house felt incredibly embarrassed. Inwardly, they all smiled bitterly. Murong Su was used to it. He only smiled slightly and explained, Mo Air and Nan Nan were hatched by brother Wushuang, so they call him father. Ai Simo made a face. Although Murong Su's words were somewhat exaggerated, Ai Simo was very obedient. She knew that the floating snow house was Murong Su's territory. In the future, she would live here and play here. She could not ruin their relationship. The more Murong Qianji looked at this future son-in-law, the more he liked him. When Murong Qianji first met Qin Wushuang at the Crest Mountain, he already appreciated this young man very much. Although at that time, there were rumors about his daughter and Qin Wushuang which made the floating snow house very passive, Murong Qianji did not anger Murong Qianji. However, Murong Qianji did not vent his anger on Qin Wushuang because of this. Instead, he had a long conversation with Qin Wushuang. Thinking back now, Murong Qianji was still proud of his insight. After all, under that situation, Qin Wushuang could be said to be a young man at the end of his rope. He did not have any relationship with the heavenly Emperor Qin clan and was being pursued by the heavenly Luo Daoist sect. It was also because of that good karma that Qin Wushuang admired Murong Qianji's noble demeanor very much. That was why they had all kinds of opportunities today. It could be said that the floating snow house's current progress was all due to a good karma back then. They did not stay long in the floating snow house. Qin Wushuang and Murong Su reluctantly said their goodbyes and headed north. Ai Simo stayed in the floating snow house and stuck close to the newly born Nan Nan. Qin Wushuang took Bao Bao, Lone, and Fire Kailan, these three great divine beasts, and headed towards the extreme north snow zone. Along the way, Qin Wushuang traveled during the day and trained at night. He traveled at a neither fast nor slow pace. When they arrived at the border of the extreme north snow zone, more than a month had passed. In this 1 month, Qin Wushuang absorbed the Xian Yuan spiritual stone given by Xian Yuan Yang at the same time. When these two treasures were absorbed together, the effect was great. Although Qin Wushuang did not congeal the supreme Tao essence of the earth attribute, he did not practice the earth attribute all this time. Therefore, the congealing of the earth attribute supreme Tao essence was a natural result of water flowing through a canal. The work he had done during normal days had shown its effect at this moment. Under the urging of the two supreme treasures of the earth attribute, the supreme Tao essence of the earth attribute was successfully congealed with high efficiency. Since he had successfully congealed the supreme Tao essence of the earth attribute, Qin Wushuang did not stop and started to work on the first stage of the profound mystery of the earth attribute of the Great Five Attributes Reincarnation Seal, the Purple Heart Thunder of the Earth Lung. This thunder was neither metal nor water. It was the thunder of the earth attribute. Absorbing the spiritual power of the earth, it formed the powerful Purple Heart Divine Thunder. Its power was very terrifying. After Qin Wushuang got it, he deeply felt that this seal technique of the earth attribute was very powerful. This Purple Heart Thunder of the Earth Lung was simply more powerful than the grenades of his previous life. It could be used freely, and its speed was peerless. It was even faster than the grenades, and the power of its explosion was even more ferocious. The rarest thing was that it exploded from underground, making it impossible to guard against. Among the 5 elements, Qin Wushuang was only lacking the water attribute essence of the earth attribute to successfully congeal now. It could be said that everything was ready, except for the east wind. Once the water attribute essence of the earth attribute was successfully congealed, the 5 elements would all be activated, forming a 5 elements reincarnation in the body. Not only would the power of the great 5 attributes reincarnation seal increase greatly, but his own realm would also rise accordingly, allowing Qin Wushuang's cultivation to reach a higher level. The most important thing was that the awakening of the 5 elements was of great significance to his future cultivation. With such a heaven-defying foundation, Qin Wushuang's future cultivation was destined to be incomparably brilliant. Only now did Qin Wushuang know that the baptism of the divine light that he had received in the 7 deadly arrays formation back then was a foreshadowing that had been buried long ago. The master of the formation used the 5-colored divine light to baptize his physical body, transforming his body's functions and forming the 5 elements talent. And these formations at the back were all interlinked. In fact, there were footnotes at the beginning. For example, this great 5 attributes reincarnation seal was the best explanation. The master of this formation could be said to have put in a lot of effort. From the first and second rings, he had already buried such a huge foreshadowing. Until the 6th ring, when the great 5 attributes reincarnation seal was laid out, it was obviously calculated precisely. And the forging mystery chapter of the 5th ring was actually also a foreshadowing. After obtaining the forging mystery chapter of the 5th ring, he started to research and break through in the divine Tao realm. Only when he reached the 6th layer, he could then naturally cultivate the great 5 attributes reincarnation seal. It was just that the master of the formation did not seem to have expected that apart from the 7 deadly arrays formation, Qin Wushuang also had many other opportunities. For example, the graceful spiritual bow, or the fortuitous encounters that the hibiscus forest divine tree clan brought to Qin Wushuang. And these fortuitous encounters were naturally icing on the cake. The divine wood essence of the divine tree clan, the fire soul essence of the scarlet fire clan, as well as the 7 treasures golden tree that he won from the great bright city, and then the earth spirit stone and living soil of the Xianyuan clan. These various opportunities added together helped Qin Wushuang to successfully condense the 4 great divine Tao soul essences of the 5 elements. Now there was only the last water attribute left. Naturally, he could not afford to lose it. After traveling 100 miles, he was halfway to 90. Within this 100 miles, he had already walked 90 miles. The last water attribute divine Tao soul essence was at most the last 10 miles. But it was crucial and would determine success or failure. After more than a month, Qin Wushuang successfully arrived at the extreme north snow region. The extreme north snow region was called the snow region, but it was actually mostly water. Before Qin Wushuang came to the extreme north snow region, he had done his homework in all aspects. He knew that the dark mysterious clan in the extreme north snow region was equivalent to the Xianyuan clan in the Xianyuan Mound. The Heavenly Mountain sect was the one that took charge of the secular powerhouses on behalf of the dark mysterious clan. The Heavenly Mountain sect held the same position as the Heavenly Emperor Gate in the Xianyuan Mound. When talking about the Heavenly Mountain sect, Qin Wushuang also had a headache. Initially at the Illusion Heavenly Lake ordeal, the last 2 opponents, one was Jiang Kuei of the One-Horned Dragon clan from the Endless Eastern Sea, and the other was Ling Tianji of the Heavenly Mountain sect. Although that Ling Tianji was not as cunning as Xian Wuji, he was also a difficult person to deal with. Although the current Qin Wushuang was no longer the ignorant person of the past, in the end, the grudge with the Heavenly Mountain sect still existed. Now at the territory of the Heavenly Mountain sect, Qin Wushuang would not dare to be blindly optimistic. Currently, Qin Wushuang had 3 divine beasts. His strength was enough to resist the Heavenly Mountain sect. After all, the strength of the Heavenly Mountain sect was on par with the Heavenly Emperor Xian clan. The dark mysterious city was the largest city in the extreme north snow region. It was also one of the core areas of the extreme north snow region. The dark mysterious clan resided in the dark mysterious city. As Qin Wushuang walked on the streets of the dark mysterious city, he experienced the unique regional customs of the extreme north snow region. While he was walking, suddenly a warning came from behind him. "Mister, stop your footsteps." Qin Wushuang smiled lightly and stopped his footsteps. He turned around and saw a few martial artists dressed in snow-white clothing. They were looking at Qin Wushuang with a questioning face. "You called me?" "Who else could it be?" The leading martial artist in white gave a cold sneer. This person did not look bad and his facial features were not particularly ugly. However, when put together, he gave off an extremely awkward feeling. One could not help but feel uncomfortable inwardly. Of course, Qin Wushuang would not judge a person by his appearance. He only nodded lightly. "What is it? Show me your identity." Qin Wushuang gave a light laugh. "When I entered the city, I did not hear about this rule." "Humph, this is the rule we set." "You guys set the rule?" Qin Wushuang glanced at the snowflake symbol on the chest of those martial artists. "Disciples of the Heavenly Mountain Sect? Since you know we are from the Heavenly Mountain Sect, why are you not cooperating?" Qin Wushuang laughed. "If Ling Xing had come personally, we could have discussed it. You guys forget it." Qin Wushuang was too lazy to pay attention to them. In a flash, he floated 300 meters away. Bao Bao and the other two divine beasts carried a faint smile on the corner of their mouths. As they looked at these martial artists, they said mockingly, "You want to know our identity, but I am afraid that you will be scared out of your wits." The martial artists of the Heavenly Mountain Sect were dumbstruck as they watched Bao Bao and the others swagger away. Suddenly, that person in the lead realized something. He twisted his lips and let out a piercing long whistle. As soon as he let out this long whistle, countless responses came from all directions. "Senior Brother Tianji already got the news, don't panic." Qin Wushuang was just worried about not finding anyone to ask about the Dark Mysterious Clan. Since the disciples of the Heavenly Mountain Sect liked to find trouble, he could start with them. Similar to the Xianyuan clan, the Dark Mysterious Clan was a hidden sect and a totem powerhouse. Their residence was extremely secretive. Ordinary sects would not know where the Dark Mysterious Clan lived. Therefore, Qin Wushuang had to start with the Heavenly Mountain Sect. Qin Wushuang initiated all his spiritual perception and already observed the disciples of the Heavenly Mountain Sect rushing over from all directions. Qin Wushuang pretended to be unaware and stayed at the inn as if he had realized something. Inwardly, he laughed secretly. Ling Tianji seems to have been enlightened. He has broken into the Supreme Tao stage, how rare! He remembered that initially at the Illusion Heavenly Lake, all his opponents were beneath the Supreme Tao stage. Now, there were people continuously making a successful dash for the Supreme Tao stage. Could it be that the trip to the Illusion Heavenly Lake had prompted everyone to be enlightened? To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com, support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 837. Who's the idea? Ling Tianji's face was solemn. Compared to more than 10 years ago at the Illusion Heavenly Lake, Ling Tianji was less domineering and more calm and reserved. However, he was still awe-inspiring. He was indeed the leader of the younger generation of the Tianshan sect. The current Ling Tianji was clearly already in charge of his own affairs. Around Ling Tianji, there were several groups of disciples of the Tianshan sect. They all had decent cultivation. These people were obviously the representatives of the younger generation of the Tianshan sect. The cultivator who previously clashed with Qin Wushuang stepped forward and said, "Senior brother, the origin of that idea is unknown." He refused to show his identity, but his cultivation is not weak. He has 3 subordinates who are even more arrogant and despotic. I suspect that they must be guilty. Otherwise, why don't they let us check their identities? Ling Tianji waved his hand. Not letting you check doesn't necessarily mean that they are guilty. Which cultivator with status and strength would be willing to be checked by others? Go straight to the point. The more detailed the details, the better. The cultivator didn't dare to blabber and narrated the conflict in full detail. Ling Tianji raised his eyebrows. He said that unless my father comes in person, we can discuss it? That's a big tone. Senior brother, this is absolutely true. Those junior brothers who followed me all heard and saw it. Ling Tianji nodded. He expected that this person wouldn't dare to lie to him. He felt strange in his heart. Who is this person? How can he be so arrogant? If it was more than 10 years ago, Ling Tianji might have rushed to their door in a fit of arrogance. After all, this was their Tianshan sect's territory. They had the home advantage, and were young and vigorous. Why would they be afraid of anything? But now, after more than 10 years of tempering and the sect's deliberate cultivation, Ling Tianji was indeed much more mature. He muttered, I know about this matter. You don't have to get involved. Leave it to me. Before we get to the bottom of this matter, you'd better do your duty and ensure that no accidents happen in this event. Yes, senior brother. After dismissing these junior brothers, Ling Tianji pondered for a moment and decided to make a trip himself. The informant of the Tianshan sect was not a bluff. Ling Tianji soon arrived at the inn where Qin Wushuang was staying. He was also curious. Most of the people who came to Xianming City would show their identity. This person was different. He actually dared to challenge a disciple of the Tianshan sect in their territory. Arriving near the inn, Ling Tianji was about to take a step forward when he suddenly felt a surge of movement under his feet. Looking down, a head suddenly popped out from the ground. It had a strange face and grinned at Ling Tianji. This was so sudden that Ling Tianji almost jumped in fright. Subconsciously, his body rushed forward and swept away like the wind. However, before he could even stabilize his footing, a wall suddenly appeared in front of him. Ling Tianji's eyes widened, and his pupils almost burst out of his eye sockets in an instant. In front of him, there was another face with a faint smile, blocking Ling Tianji's way in a layer of faintly discernible air wall. Only then did Ling Tianji realize that he seemed to have run into a tough nut. Powerful auras surged from 3 directions, surrounding Ling Tianji in the middle. Instantly, Ling Tianji felt his breathing become rapid as his divine soul throbbed. Ha ha, bring him up. Qin Wushuang's indifferent voice transmitted down. Bao Bao and the other 2 divine beasts took Ling Tianji upstairs. Although Ling Tianji felt anxious inwardly, he did not show it. Ling Tianji. Qin Wushuang's gaze fell onto Ling Tianji as he said with an incredibly indifferent tone, I have traveled extensively and been to all 5 forbidden spiritual zones. However, it's my first time meeting people who treat guests with such disrespect. Could it be that your Tianshan sect plans to shut your doors and call yourselves kings? With the heart illusion mask, plus Qin Wushuang's deliberate disguise, how could Ling Tianji recognize him after a dozen years? With a bitter smile, he said, Mister, I think you have misunderstood. My Tianshan sect was entrusted by the dark mysterious clan to check your identity. We do not have any ill intentions. Since you have come to the dark mysterious city, you should have come for that pageant. Since you have come for this, sooner or later you will have to register your identity. Why would you refuse? Qin Wushuang was rather stunned by his words. What pageant? You don't know? Ling Tianji was greatly surprised. Mister, could it be you did not come for that dark mysterious assembly? What is the dark mysterious assembly? I only know about the 10,000-year pilgrimage assembly. Qin Wushuang laughed. Naturally, the dark mysterious assembly is incomparable to the 10,000-year pilgrimage assembly. However, it is also a pageant that occurs once in 100 years. Mister, you really don't know? Qin Wushuang shrugged his shoulders. I don't know. No wonder. Ling Tianji gave a long sigh. You have great strength, you should have a great background. I just don't know why you have come to my dark mysterious city. It seems I am the one asking you, right? What is going on with this dark mysterious assembly? The Dark Mysterious Assembly is a trade pageant entrusted by the Dark Mysterious Clan to my Tianshan sect. At the Dark Mysterious Assembly, any level of trade can take place. Moreover, there is an absolute guarantee of safety and credibility. Moreover, at the Dark Mysterious Assembly, there will be many auctions and bounty activities. You also know that the Totem Clan's bounty missions are rarely issued. Once it is issued, there will be many benefits and everyone will fight for it. Qin Wushuang did not make a sound. He activated his divine sense and stared at Ling Tianji for a moment. From Ling Tianji's eyes, he did not see any deceit. He nodded. Very good, you did not lie to me. Since there is such a pageant, there is no harm in me going to take a look. Your Tianshan sect's disciple offended me, and now you want to spy on me. You should be punished severely. However, bullying a junior like you in your Tianshan sect's territory would not look good on Ling Xing's face. Forget it, today's matter ends here. If your Tianshan sect continues to dawdle, don't blame me for falling out with you. The old and experienced tone and the aggressive warning made even someone as arrogant as Ling Tianji feel a wave of apprehension. He knew that the person in front of him was not joking and indeed had the qualifications to say this. Although he felt that the person in front of him was not much older than him, and even felt that he was younger than Ling Tianji. However, the other party's aura and strength were there. He could not help but be unconvinced. Ling Tianji left Qin Wushuang's place with fear and trepidation. He did not dare to act on his own and immediately returned to the Tianshan sect's headquarters to meet his father, Ling Xing, to consult about this matter. Ling Xing was also rather apprehensive. He valued this precious son of his very much. If by any chance something happened to him, Ling Xing would definitely be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. After listening to Ling Tianji's story, Ling Xing muttered, Tianji, since this person's strength is so great, he must be a difficult character to deal with. Since he has no enmity and did not do anything to you, it's best not to provoke this person for the time being. Our Tianshan sect is now holding this pageant well. We need to restrain ourselves from other things. Ling Xing was rather mature and prudent. It was best not to make too many enemies at this crucial moment. Otherwise, if someone came to make trouble, it might spoil their big plan. Father, this person's strength is really great. Since he did not come for the Dark Mysterious Assembly, I am curious, why did he come? You don't have to worry about this. If he has no enmity, don't provoke him. Didn't you say that he wanted to go to the Dark Mysterious Assembly to take a look? Very well, go now and give him a special VIP jade token and invite him to participate. As for his identity, if he doesn't say, don't ask. However, it doesn't seem reasonable to not announce his identity when participating in the Dark Mysterious Assembly, right? Tianji, you still don't know how to be flexible. The so-called announcement of his identity is just a formality. Some real experts like to hide their tracks. We also need to treat them differently. Go and give him this special VIP jade token. We have already gone through the proper etiquette. Whether he goes or not is his business. Moreover, if such a big shot wants to participate in the trade pageant, he will definitely spend a lot of money. When the time comes, we will also be able to obtain a considerable commission. The Dark Mysterious Race's rewards will also definitely be more. Ling Tianji nodded cheerfully. All right, I will send it over now. Ling Tianji was no longer the arrogant young man from before. He had more ability to judge the situation and size up the situation. He knew that when facing such an expert, fawning over him was better than confronting him. If they maintained a good relationship, Even if they couldn't become friends, they wouldn't become enemies. The reappearance of Ling Tianji had made Qin Wushuang somewhat surprised. Of course, he had to accept this special VIP jade token. With this item, participating in the Dark Mysterious Assembly would save him a lot of trouble. Qin Wushuang had been worried about not having a place to inquire about the Dark Mysterious race. This Dark Mysterious Assembly just happened to provide an opportunity. It could be said that he had met a pillow when he was sleepy. The grand opening of the Dark Mysterious Assembly was 10 days later. Qin Wushuang attended the assembly with the 3 divine beasts. The 3 divine beasts naturally appeared in their human forms. Even so, when the aura of these 4 people appeared at the Dark Mysterious Assembly, it immediately caused a series of exclamations. All the noise in the originally noisy hall seemed to have been sucked away. Everyone was speechless and shocked by the aura of their appearance. It wasn't until Qin Wushuang handed over the special jade token and was led to the VIP lounge inside by the reception staff that the outside of the hall gradually regained its liveliness. TSK, it seems the scale of this Dark Mysterious Assembly is not small. In less than an hour, a few groups of Supreme Tao elite warriors have entered the VIP lounge. I truly hope the Supreme Tao elite warriors can offer more bounty missions. Haha, I wonder if there will be a Supreme Tao weapon offered as a bounty this time? To these ordinary martial artists, Supreme Tao weapons were treasures that were out of their reach, treasures that they yearned for even in their dreams. It drove them crazy and made them unable to eat or sleep. When Qin Wushuang approached the VIP lounge, he saw a dozen Supreme Tao elite warriors had already gathered inside. Most of these Supreme Tao elite warriors were alone. There were also 20 to 30% of them. However, there was only one group of 4 like Qin Wushuang. Additionally, after Bao Bao and his friends transformed, they restrained their strength. After all, they were different from the Supreme Tao elite warriors of the human martial artists. Naturally, these Supreme Tao elite warriors could not see through their strength. Naturally, they treated Bao Bao and his friends as ordinary martial artists and thought they were Qin Wushuang's ordinary followers. Qin Wushuang did not suppress his aura. Because of this, the appearance of a transformation Supreme Tao elite warrior caused most of these Supreme Tao elite warriors to feel a wave of invisible pressure. Qin Wushuang turned a blind eye to these reactions and sat down on the chair with a grand posture. At this moment, a joyous voice called out from the outside, "Sir Ling Xing, the patriarch of the Heavenly Mountain sect has arrived." As soon as these words were spoken, all the guests could not help but stand up. Only Qin Wushuang continued to blow on the tea beside his mouth with a calm smile, as if he did not hear it. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com, support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 838. Qin Wushuang once saw Ling Xing's appearance at the Illusion Heavenly Lake. He knew that although Ling Xing's strength was slightly weaker than that Xin Tianwen, it was almost the same. When Ling Xing walked in, these special guests could not help but feel a trace of pressure. With an extremely courteous smile on his face, Ling Xing glanced at Qin Wushuang a few times. Then, he cupped his hands in a salute and said with a calm expression, "Thank you all for coming, I thank you." Haha, Head Chief Ling is too polite. It's also our honor to be able to participate in the Dark Mysterious Assembly. Ling Xing said with a chuckle, "All right, everyone, I will not speak any more courteous words. Everyone here is different from the friends outside. Because of everyone's presence, this Dark Mysterious Assembly appears even more resplendent. Everyone, if you have anything you need to auction or trade, you can sign up. We will arrange the time to appear according to the value of the treasure. The more valuable the treasure, the later it will appear. It will be the best stuff for the finale. We will put in great effort to package and promote your treasures to maximize the return." Being special guests, they did have these rights, or else they would not have been invited here alone. In fact, being able to come to this inner hall was a form of recognition to their identity. When these distinguished guests heard these words, they started to sign up. They registered the things they wanted to trade or auction. If it was a trade, they also noted down any special requirements for the goods. Qin Wushuang was not in a rush to take out his goods. After observing for a while, he realized that indeed, these Supreme Tao elite warriors were not ordinary people. Many of the goods they dared to take out were good stuff. Almost each Supreme Tao elite warrior could take out 1 or 2 good things. They even had 4 or 5 Supreme Tao weapons. There were also a few that were more valuable than Supreme Tao weapons. When it was Qin Wushuang's turn, Qin Wushuang was already mentally prepared. Naturally, he could not be stingy. He had intended to appear as the finale. He hoped to create the greatest momentum. He did not take out 1 item, but a set. A transformation Supreme Tao weapon, a Supreme Tao armor, and a Dragon Breath seal. Qin Wushuang pondered for a moment. This amount of money seemed to be enough for the finale. However, it still wasn't enough to completely overwhelm the other competitors and become the final treasure. Qin Wushuang specifically noted that he could also give out an extra slot to take in a disciple. The disciple quota of a transformation Supreme Tao warrior was much more precious than any treasure. When Qin Wushuang mentioned this additional condition, even Ling Sheng was a little surprised. He looked at Qin Wushuang a few more times. After all, this matter of taking in a disciple was not a joke. The profound sky continent placed great importance on the inheritance of orthodoxies. Under normal circumstances, they would not take in disciples easily. Before accepting a disciple, he had to investigate the disciple's background and intentions. It was better to have nothing than to have something substandard. The experts of the sects would usually choose from the young people of their own sections. They would never accept outsiders as disciples. Your Excellency, may I ask if this series of treasures is for auction or trade? The person in charge of the registration of the Tianshan sect asked. Trade. Qin Wushuang spoke 2 simple words. Oh, then do you have any special requirements for the trade? There is only one requirement. The trade goods must be the dark mysterious ice soul and the blue wave water pool. Besides that, I will politely decline any other trade goods. Qin Wushuang spoke straightforwardly. Instantly, that person in charge of the registration was stunned. He looked at Qin Wushuang dumbfoundedly. This, can't I? It's not that you can't, it's just, if you limit the trade like this, most likely you won't be able to find anyone to trade with. You know that the dark mysterious ice soul and the blue wave water pool are not ordinary goods. Some people might not take them out for trade, and for those who don't have them, they can't take them out even if they wanted to. Register it. Regardless of whether you have it or not, the most important thing is to participate. Qin Wushuang let out a leisurely smile. That person in charge looked at Ling Xing with some hesitation. Clearly, he did not dare to make the decision easily. He knew that this trade might not succeed. If it did not succeed, he would not be able to get the commission. This was not a good thing for the Tianshan sect. After all, as the finale trade, if it did not succeed in the end, wouldn't it be a waste of human resources and publicity to create momentum for him? The corner of Ling Xing's mouth twitched slightly, indicating his approval. Only then did that person in charge dare to put down his pen and register it. After the procedures were completed, the grand event began grandly. At the beginning, there were naturally all kinds of speeches. Qin Wushuang listened for the time being, and did not pay much attention. The first segment was the auction. In this kind of grand event, the auction was actually not a very popular segment. Therefore, this useless segment was completely over in less than 2 hours. The second segment was the trade segment. This trade was divided into 2 segments, the exhibition trade and the free trade segment. Qin Wushuang and the others were participating in this kind of exhibition trade. First, the items were individually introduced, and then everyone competed. If there was a special trade partner, it was destined to limit the majority of people to only watch on. The free trade segment was very simple, but it lasted for the longest time. In this segment, the people who participated could trade whatever they wanted in the spiritual conference. They could set up stalls, and they could also hawk their wares. There were many forms. However, everyone knew that in the free trade segment, except for a few people who were unwilling to show their wealth, most of the items could not be compared to the exhibition trade. The exhibition trade, through a series of displays and packaging, was taken out and introduced individually. The value of the item itself was naturally very high. In addition to the competition, there would definitely be a lot of gains. In other words, the exhibition trade segment was the highlight. This exhibition trade segment had a total of about 30 items. The organizer would arrange the items according to the value of the items. The later it appeared, the more valuable it was. At the beginning, there were more than 10 items. Although they were all good items, for Supreme Tao Elite Warriors there was almost no attraction. Moreover, Qin Wushuang was a transformation Supreme Tao Elite Warrior. His eyelids did not even twitch. When it came to the 15th item, there was a good item that moved Qin Wushuang's heart. This item was called the Green Wood Divine Cauldron. Although it was called a divine cauldron, it actually did not belong to the ranks of divine weapons. It was a supreme-grade elixir cauldron for refining elixirs. Although it could not refine elixirs above the Supreme Tao realm, it could guarantee a very high success rate for elixirs below the Supreme Tao realm. Especially for wood attribute cultivators, it was even more of a good item. Unfortunately, there were not many wood attribute cultivators in this world, and there were even fewer who had the talent to refine elixirs. After all, alchemists usually only asked for the fire attribute. There were very few who asked for the wood attribute, and this wood attribute, in the high-end world of alchemy, was not inferior to the fire attribute in importance. Therefore, Qin Wushuang was a little moved. Because the owner of this green wood divine cauldron wanted to exchange for a Supreme Tao weapon. This price was not considered high. There were not many wood attribute cultivators present, and there were only 20 to 30 Supreme Tao elite warriors and some sect leaders who had Supreme Tao weapons. When this green wood divine cauldron announced the price, it immediately caused a commotion. If there were many people who were willing, it was very simple. Everyone would compete fairly, and there would be no backdoor deals. The Xianming assembly naturally had this bit of principle. Or else, it would not cause so many cultivators to flock here. What was important was standardization and fairness. Qin Wushuang observed for a while. There were a total of 5 groups of competitors. Including him, there were a total of 6 competitors. Obviously, the owner of the Green Wood Divine Cauldron did not expect this. He felt that although this cauldron of his carried the name of a divine cauldron, it was not a Supreme Tao item at all. It was most likely worthless. Who would have thought that the situation would be so explosive? After a few rounds of bidding, 3 competitors were immediately eliminated. After all, competition would lead to crazy bidding. There would be someone who could not hold on if the price kept increasing. Qin Wushuang seemed to be oblivious as he calmly fixed his nails. Bao Bao, who was next to him, kept bidding for Qin Wushuang. My master is willing to offer a Supreme Tao weapon of the 7th tribulation of the Coagulate Supreme Tao stage. A Supreme Tao weapon was the same as a Supreme Tao cultivator. They both paid attention to the number of tribulations. Although they were both at the Coagulate Supreme Tao stage, a Supreme Tao weapon that had gone through 9 tribulations and a Supreme Tao weapon that had gone through 1 tribulation naturally could not be mentioned in the same breath. A Supreme Tao weapon that had gone through tribulations with the original owner, this kind of experience to outsiders was the most attractive. It was a big capital. Qin Wushuang's bidding for a seventh tribulation of the Coagulate Supreme Tao stage shocked everyone present. Even those elite warriors who had just entered the Coagulate Supreme Tao stage were breathing rapidly. Seventh tribulation. Obtaining such a Coagulate Supreme Tao weapon that had gone through 7 tribulations in one tribulation meant that in the future, until the 7th tribulation, there would be a powerful weapon accompanying them. This weapon had gone through 7 tribulations before. This was enough to help them increase their chances of passing the tribulation by 30 to 40% before the 7th tribulation. 4 elite warriors of the Supreme Tao. Each tribulation was like a mountain of swords and a sea of fire. To be able to have such a highly qualified Supreme Tao weapon by their side was definitely a great fortune. Therefore, these elite warriors of the Supreme Tao were now somewhat envious of the owner of the Divine Cauldron. They all felt that it would be great if they were the owner of this Divine Cauldron. One must know that the previous opponent had only bid for a 5th tribulation of the Coagulate Supreme Tao weapon, and Qin Wushuang had directly upgraded to the 7th tribulation. Naturally, it shocked people. The remaining 2 opponents could not help but take a few more glances at Qin Wushuang's side. They wanted to see just how rich and imposing this mysterious rich man was. People who could persist until now and not give up were all very fond of this green wood Divine Cauldron. Otherwise, they would not have lasted until now. One of the elite warriors who could tell at one glance that he was the leader of a sect snorted coldly. I also bid for a 7th tribulation of the Coagulate Supreme Tao weapon, in addition to a 1st tribulation of the Coagulate Supreme Tao weapon. There was still another competitor, an old man. With a dark face, he calculated for a while and also did not hesitate. I bid for an 8th tribulation of the Coagulate Supreme Tao weapon. The competition became more and more intense as each side raised the price without giving way. Immediately, it made the Xianming assembly enter a small high-C Chao state. This kind of bidding was the easiest to ignite everyone's enthusiasm. It was also the easiest to attract people and stir people's hearts. After all, if the trade fair was a one-on-one transaction, there was not much to see. The tug-of-war of competition started, each showing their ability, each raising a high price. Only then would it become interesting. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 839. After that elder made the offer, he opened his eyes wide and glared at his 2 competitors as if he was demonstrating his power. That previous sect leader gave a snort, for clearly, he was annoyed. However, he had his strategy and would always add a 1st Calamity Supreme Tao weapon to his opponent. He only heard him say, I offer an 8th Calamity Coagulate Supreme Tao weapon, plus a 1st Calamity Coagulate Supreme Tao weapon. Bao Bao could not refrain from bursting into laughter. In this competition, everyone held their breath as they called out their offers. They did not dare to make a loud sound for fear of disturbing this competitive atmosphere. In this absolutely silent scene, Bao Bao's laughter appeared extremely abrupt. Countless pairs of eyes looked at Bao Bao. They could not understand how this person could call out such a joyful price. Under such circumstances, with such intense competition, he could still laugh. Everyone wanted to see what kind of freak this person was. On the other hand, the owner of the greenwood Divine Cauldron had a green and white complexion. His lips could not help but tremble as if he was mumbling something. If one had good hearing, perhaps they could hear that the owner of the Divine Cauldron was stunned by this crazy offer. He could not help but mumble, too high, too high. Bao Bao had lost his self-control and laughed when he heard the mumbling of the owner of the Divine Cauldron. In addition to that competitor, he was so wacky. Every time, he would add a 1st Calamity Condensed Supreme Tao weapon on top of his opponent's foundation. His calculations were very good. Indeed, Bao Bao's laughter caused these two competitors to feel extremely annoyed. They could not refrain from feeling the same hatred for a common enemy. They withdrew their hostility and glared at Bao Bao at the same time. Bao Bao spread out his hands helplessly. "Why are you looking at me?" That elder gave a cold snort. "What are you laughing at? Are you looking down on our offer?" Bao Bao chuckled. "Do you think I have water in my head? If I look down on your offer, wouldn't that be making things difficult for me? Alright, I am not laughing at you guys. Everyone relax. Isn't it just a transaction? Why are you all so nervous? Maintain your mentality, maintain your mentality." Bao Bao's hands did not step on the ground as he made exaggerated movements. He pressed down and motioned for everyone to relax. Unexpectedly, before he could withdraw his beaming smile, he gave a price. "My master is willing to offer a first calamity transformation supreme Tao weapon." This time, everyone was dumbfounded. The owner of the Azure Wood Divine Cauldron simply sat down on the chair as his pupils rapidly contracted. Clearly, he was also frightened by Bao Bao's price. This was far beyond his expectations. He hadn't even dreamed of it. Bao Bao said with a smile, "I already said to maintain a relaxed attitude. Why are you so surprised?" This price had indeed made the competitors feel deeply helpless. Everyone knew that transformation supreme Tao weapons and coagulation supreme Tao weapons were two completely different concepts. A transformation supreme Tao weapon was too rare. It could be said that this price directly crushed the opponent's psychological defense. Even if he did not give up, he would definitely be an arrow at the end of its flight. That sect leader and that elder all looked at Bao Bao with a deep gaze. Clearly, they wanted to see where the other party's bottom line was. However, what disappointed them was that their opponent was calm and composed, and did not show any signs of a final struggle. Not to mention the bottom line, they could not even see through their opponent's depth. Indeed, such an opponent made them feel a deep sense of helplessness. For an opponent that they could not see the bottom line, they knew they could not afford to tangle with him. Additionally, to be honest, a first calamity transformation supreme Tao weapon had also surpassed their expectations. It was not that they could not take out a first calamity transformation supreme Tao weapon, but they could not be so generous. Although the Azure Wood Divine Cauldron was good, it was not to the extent that they would sacrifice a transformation supreme Tao weapon for it. How could they know how monstrous the opponent they had encountered was? Even for the elite warriors of the Totem Clan, their supreme Tao weapon storage would certainly be incomparable to Qin Wushuang's. In Qin Wushuang's arsenal, a weapon at the first calamity of the transformation supreme Tao stage could, at most, be considered average. Following the organizer's final decision with a smile, this transaction was a success. It was not surprising that the organizer was all smiles, for this transaction had truly surpassed their imagination. Because of the raised price, this transaction had exceeded their expectations. Naturally, the organizer hoped that the more such transactions, the better. The following transactions were uneventful. Qin Wushuang got the Green Wood Divine Cauldron and went to play with it himself. After each item came out, Qin Wushuang would pay attention to it. When he found that it had little to do with him, he would not pay attention to it. After the auction reached 20 items, the Supreme Tao weapons gradually began to appear. As soon as the Supreme Tao weapons appeared, the competition became fierce. Especially for those below the Supreme Tao, the exquisite mysterious realm experts, they were even more excited as if they had been drugged with aphrodisiac. Qin Wushuang did not even bother to twitch his eyelids. It did not concern him, so he let it go. He knew that his item would not appear so early. Even if it was not the final item, it would definitely be in the bottom 3. He was now very interested in this Green Wood Divine Cauldron. After getting it, he could not bear to put it down and played with it carefully. Using the wood attribute Supreme Tao Primordial Spirit to sense and communicate, Qin Wushuang found that although this green wood divine cauldron was not a divine weapon, if Qin Wushuang was willing to modify it, it would definitely not be difficult to refine it into a divine weapon. The material of this divine cauldron was very good. What it lacked was the wood attribute spiritual power supply. After all, without sufficient spiritual power supply, something like the green wood divine cauldron would definitely lose a lot of its luster. Qin Wushuang had received the Divine Tree Clan's Divine Tree Primordial Spirit on Fusang Island. The Divine Tree Primordial Spirit in his body could provide an endless stream of Divine Tree spiritual power. This made the green wood divine cauldron shine in his hands. Qin Wushuang did not show off and kept this green wood divine cauldron in his bag. He planned to study it carefully when he had time after returning. This item had a lot of potential to be developed. Qin Wushuang did not hesitate to trade for this item. It was not without thoughts. He knew that if he planned to establish a sect in the future, he had to recruit a lot of disciples. And for a sect to rise, it had to have a large reserve of talent. Medicinal pills were the best shortcut to nurturing talent. In the world of cultivators, medicinal pills were definitely not omnipotent. But without medicinal pills, it was definitely impossible. Any sect would have a specialized alchemy organization. If they could not even produce their own medicinal pills, the long-term development of this sect would certainly not be optimistic. Qin Wushuang had planned far ahead because of this layer of consideration. Even if he did not establish a sect in the future, being the head chief of the Qin clan, he had the obligation to plan for the long term. To ordinary Supreme Tao elite warriors, a mere transformation Supreme Tao weapon was definitely a rare object. However, to him, it was like pulling a hair from his thigh. The competition for the Supreme Tao weapon was dismal and intense. After half a day of competition, finally the curtains had closed. And thus, a day's time was up. The organizer came out to announce, "Everyone, time has passed quickly. Good times are always short. Today's pageant will end here. Tomorrow, there will be 3 more items for the finale. I believe it will be even more exciting. It will also satisfy everyone's request and curiosity. If you do not want to miss it, you must come early tomorrow." Amidst the emotional words, the first day of the assembly had ended. Indeed, as the organizer had said, the next day was even more exciting. Indeed, everyone had arrived early. When Qin Wushuang and his friends had arrived leisurely, the entire place was almost full. Fortunately, as the honored guests, they had a special seat. Only, since they had appeared late, they could not help but receive the attention of tens of thousands of people. Due to their powerful performance when competing for the green wood divine cauldron yesterday, they had received extra attention. Everyone was curious, for such a major figure, would he have some grand moves? Would this lord make an appearance in the final 3 items of the day? Influential figures always had to bear more expectations. Everyone was looking forward to seeing Qin Wushuang make another move to broaden everyone's horizons. Unfortunately, ever since Qin Wushuang had acquired the green wood divine cauldron yesterday, there was no record of him making another move. Honorable guests, the first exciting moment of the dark mysterious assembly is about to arrive. Today we will be showing our 28th treasure, a wind-chasing divine transformation talisman. This talisman is a talisman at the master level. When you activate this talisman, you can escape safely before any elite warriors beneath the genuine Supreme Tao stage. Only, this talisman is a consumable item. This wind-chasing divine transformation talisman can only be used 3 times. The bottom line is a 3rd calamity transformation Supreme Tao weapon. There is no upper limit. No upper limit, this was nonsense. Naturally, the trader would not set an upper limit. Naturally, the higher the trading conditions, the better. The wind-chasing divine transformation talisman was definitely a good thing. However, strangely, the entire scene had sunk into silence. It was not as heated as when the green wood divine cauldron had appeared. When Qin Wushuang saw the somewhat anxious expression of the organizer, he did not find it strange inwardly. Everyone's eyes were as bright as snow. Indeed, this wind-chasing divine transformation talisman was good. Although it was good, those who liked it could not give away a third calamity transformation supreme Tao weapon. Those who could give it away would have to weigh whether it was worth it. After all, a third calamity transformation supreme Tao weapon was not something ordinary people could take out. For ordinary sects, even for the Qin clan, before the appearance of Qin Wushuang, they would not have more than 10 supreme Tao weapons. For transformation supreme Tao weapons, they would not have more than 5. These were all owned by the major figures in the sect. For some of them, they would not even be willing to use them if they did not have a suitable person in their storage. Naturally, they would have to weigh the pros and cons of using it to trade for a consumable item like the wind-chasing divine transformation talisman. Everyone knew that this talisman was a good thing. However, 4 elite warriors who owned a third calamity transformation supreme Tao weapon, it was debatable whether they truly needed this talisman. After all, certainly those who owned a divine weapon at this level were elite warriors at the transformation supreme Tao stage. To begin with, he was already very powerful. Before ordinary elite warriors at the transformation supreme Tao stage, they would not need to use this object to escape. When Qin Wushuang saw that the scene was about to turn cold, he chuckled. It seems that everyone is not very interested. This way, I will take out a third calamity transformation supreme Tao weapon. If someone increases the price, I will give up. It was impossible for anyone to increase the price. Everyone already felt that a third calamity transformation supreme Tao weapon was a sucker. If they were to increase the price, the degree of succor would be greater than the dark mysterious mountain. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 840. After putting away the wind-chasing divine talisman, Qin Wushuang clearly felt that everyone's gaze had changed. Everyone was thinking, could this person truly be a weapon shop owner? How could he casually sell supreme Tao weapons? Qin Wushuang knew that this deal might not be equivalent. However, even if he did not need this talisman, there would be others who needed it. At the crucial moment, he was not around. To his family, this talisman was much more useful than a third calamity transformation supreme Tao weapon. To outsiders, a third calamity transformation supreme Tao weapon could make them do all kinds of crazy things. However, in Qin Wushuang's eyes, a third calamity transformation supreme Tao weapon could not be compared to the safety of his family. Before Qin Wushuang could sit down, the introduction of the second to last transaction item began. Before the treasure appeared, Qin Wushuang was moved inwardly. He knew that it was his item. If it were not for Qin Wushuang's crazy performance earlier, with Qin Wushuang's harsh trade requirements, the organizer would not have spent so much effort to promote and package him. A fourth calamity transformation supreme Tao weapon, a first calamity transformation supreme Tao armor, and a dragon breath seal that was equivalent to the strongest attack of a 6th or 7th calamity transformation supreme Tao elite warrior. When this combination was performed, it instantly pushed the atmosphere of the scene to a new climax. If the appearance of the wind-chasing divine talisman caused a temporary silence, then the appearance of Qin Wushuang's combination of equipment could be said to have pushed it to another peak. This could be seen from the wild look in everyone's eyes and their rich expressions. Shock, madness, envy, jealousy, desire, and determination to get it. All kinds of rich expressions made the atmosphere of the scene extremely interesting. Qin Wushuang was fine, but Bao Bao had a bad taste. He enjoyed everyone's rich expressions. Inwardly, he felt extremely proud. The feeling of being noticed was rather satisfying. Clearly, the organizer intended to liven up the atmosphere. He said with a smile, "The owner of this set of equipment is the seventh guest who had an outstanding performance yesterday and today. He is our Sir Xinghe." Qin Wushuang used the code name of his previous life, Xinghe. When he heard the organizer announce his name, Qin Wushuang smiled and stood up. He waved his hand around and calmly sat back down. This kind of calm temperament that only a big shot could display made people feel that this person was not to be underestimated. His actions had the demeanor of a great grandmaster, which led to even more guesses. Let everyone know that apart from this set of equipment, Lord Xinghe also has an additional bargaining chip, which is the qualification to be Lord Xinghe's disciple in name. Everyone, this is an opportunity that cannot be missed. This Lord Xinghe is no ordinary person. The shock caused by this additional bargaining chip was even greater than that of the combination equipment. Equipment was dead, but to be able to become a disciple of a supreme Tao powerhouse, that was not an ordinary opportunity. For a moment, everyone was overwhelmed with emotions. Everyone, perhaps you are already calculating whether or not you have enough chip. However, what I want to tell everyone is that Lord Xinghe has a special request for this transaction. To be able to obtain this supreme honor and treasure, it will depend on whether or not all of you are blessed. I say, don't keep us in suspense. What kind of bargaining chip does Lord Xinghe want? Please say it. Yes, be straightforward and say it. That's right, what's the point of keeping us in suspense? We can't wait any longer. Haha, it seems like everyone is very anxious. The organizer also smiled. All right, Lord Xinghe only has one condition. You must use the mysterious dark ice soul and the blue wave water pool to exchange for his treasures and the position of his disciple in name. The mysterious dark ice soul and the blue wave water pool. Everyone was stunned. These things were not easy to obtain. They were items that only the totem mysterious dark underworld race had. Although there were many of them, these items had a fixed label. They were exclusive to the mysterious dark underworld race. For a moment, everyone's expressions changed unpredictably. They were all thinking about how they could obtain these items. Although the mysterious dark ice soul and the blue wave water pool were exclusive to the mysterious dark underworld race, the mysterious dark underworld race had been passed down for tens of thousands of years. However, the people who possessed them might not have come to participate in this grand event. Just as the organizer of the Tianshan sect had guessed, the conditions of this transaction weren't too harsh. However, due to the special circumstances, this transaction made everyone eager to give it a try but excluded everyone else. The organizer felt very helpless when he saw everyone's expressions. He also knew that these items were definitely things that everyone would fight over. However, the conditions of this transaction were really too special. Sure enough, someone below the stage shouted, "How can the finale be treated like a joke? How many people have the mysterious dark ice soul and the blue wave water pool?" That's right. How could he take out something that is impossible to possess? This kind of transaction exists in name only. Isn't this whetting everyone's appetite? Is he deliberately toying with everyone's feelings? It was obvious that this kind of special transaction made many people who were eager to give it a try feel very hurt. Originally, their expectations had been very high, but now all of their hopes had been cut off. This kind of disappointment made these people's words less polite. The organizer helplessly cast a pleading look at Qin Wushuang, hoping that Sir Xinghe would say a few words and see if he could relax the conditions of the transaction. Qin Wushuang didn't decline. He leisurely walked up to the stage. "Everyone, perhaps you have good things on hand, but to me, things that I can't use have no value no matter how good they are. The mysterious dark ice soul and the blue wave water pool may not have much value in your eyes, but I can use them. Therefore, I didn't hesitate to pay a high price for this transaction. This is called a fair transaction. Why would I bother to use my good things to exchange for the things that you have that I can't use? Therefore, you don't have to worry. This transaction is open forever until I obtain these two items. If you don't have the mysterious dark ice soul and the blue wave water pool now, you can look for them later. In short, before I obtain the mysterious dark ice soul and the blue wave water pool, this transaction will always be open. Qin Wushuang smiled at the organizer, indicating that they could continue. The organizer was very helpless. He announced, "Since no one meets the conditions of the transaction, let's enter the last transaction of the ultimate treasure. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put the final treasure." As for what the last treasure was, Qin Wushuang didn't care much about it. The last treasure also appeared in the form of a combination. It was a secret manual, 3 sealing attack scrolls, a transformation supreme Dao weapon, and a transformation supreme Dao armor. This combination might not be more valuable than Qin Wushuang's combination. But considering Qin Wushuang's special transaction requirements, not putting Qin Wushuang's item at the end showed the organizer's foresight. That secret manual was also a secret manual on the divine soul training after entering the Supreme Dao stage. It was similar to Qin Wushuang's Forging Mysterious record. However, clearly it was not as good as the Forging Mysterious record. Qin Wushuang's Forging Mysterious record was an ancient Supreme Dao training method passed down from the immemorial era. The training techniques and insights far surpassed the current training secret manuals. As for the sealing attacks, transformation supreme Dao weapons, and armor, they were not attractive to Qin Wushuang. Initially at the Endless Eastern Sea, Qin Wushuang asked Miss Mi Jia for 10 scrolls of the Dragon Breath seal with a thick face. Everyone missed Qin Wushuang's combination by a stroke of luck. Therefore, as soon as the last combination was pushed out, it triggered a wild competition. Of course, for such a valuable combination, ordinary people could not afford it. Therefore, most of the people who participated in the competition were the leaders of those tyrannical powerhouses. Naturally, Qin Wushuang did not have the slightest interest. Inwardly, he was also calculating, "I am in the limelight at this trade fair, certainly people will come to find me in private. This time, I deliberately acted with such a high profile and wanted to publicize it deliberately. I hope the dark mysterious ice soul and the blue wave water pool will appear." Unexpectedly, my plan fell through. Anyways, after the exhibition trade is over, the free trade will begin. The organizer will push out all kinds of bounty missions. I can also sign up and set up a bounty. If it wasn't absolutely necessary, in fact Qin Wushuang did not want to barge into the holy place of the Dark Mysterious clan to find the Dark Mysterious Ice Soul and the Blue Wave Water Pool. After all, with his current strength, it was not enough to run amok in the territory of the totem powerhouses. Before the Heavenly Emperor election, before the gathering of the 5 elemental essences, it was best to keep a low profile. Regardless of the desperate bidding at the scene, Qin Wushuang took the 3 great divine beasts and walked towards the back hall. He wanted to release that bounty mission. Now, he did not hold any hope and was purely treating a dead horse as a living one. Of course, he also held on to the slightest hope. At the trade fair, some people did not dare to come out to trade. Perhaps a miracle would happen in private? Therefore, when Qin Wushuang left the hall, he swaggered and showed off. Of course, it was for the people at the scene to see. If the people at the scene had the intention, they would find him in private. After he walked to the back hall and released the bounty mission, Qin Wushuang walked out leisurely. Indeed, 3 groups of people were already waiting outside the door. What Qin Wushuang could not imagine was that one of the groups, or more precisely, one of them was a little girl. She did not appear to be more than 12 years old. "Sir Xinghe, please stay." For the other 2 groups, Qin Wushuang had paid attention to them. They were all first-rate powerhouses in the extreme north snow zone. Although they were not as powerful as the Heavenly Mountain sect, in the extreme north snow zone, they were at least equivalent to the Heavenly Punishing Villa and the Sound of Thunder sect in the Xian Yuan Mound. Everyone, could it be you have secretly collected the dark mysterious ice soul and the blue wave water pool? If you have, it would be the same if we make a private transaction. Qin Wushuang chuckled. On the contrary, that little girl followed behind Qin Wushuang timidly. Her face was as red as a bright red apple. Amidst her shyness, there was some expectation. She appeared to be hesitant and worried about personal gains and losses. Bao Bao could not bear such situation the most. Immediately, his protective feelings for the fairer sex overflowed as he chuckled. "Little girl, why are you following us? Do you have the dark mysterious ice soul and the blue wave water pool?" That little girl blushed and shook her head unconsciously. Her fingers curled around the corner of her clothes as she said with a mosquito-like voice, I want to take Sir Xing He as my teacher. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com, support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 841. This little girl was extremely shy. After she finished speaking, her face flushed red, but her eyes shone with burning anticipation. Because she was worried about personal gains and losses, her nervous mood was written all over her face. Her long eyelashes gently fluttered, making her pair of lively big eyes appear even more innocent and clear. However, behind this innocence and clarity, there was a hidden sadness that could not be suppressed. This point could be faintly seen from the little girl's depressed eyebrows. Qin Wushuang laughed. "Little girl, do you want to be my disciple? How old are you today?" "I'm 11 this year." The little girl straightened her chest, trying her best to show her mature side. For this reason, she even secretly stood on her heels, trying to make herself look taller. In Qin Wushuang's eyes, how could this little girl's little movements be hidden from him? This little girl tried her best to pretend to be very mature, but this kind of naive behavior of a little girl fully showed that she was still a child after all. "Lord Xinghe, may I have a word with you?" a middle-aged man asked with a hoarse voice. Qin Wushuang's gaze was indifferent as he glanced at the two groups of people. "I'm sorry, if you have the Xianming Ice Soul and the Blue Wave Water Pool, you can make a deal here. If you don't, you can't say anything even if you borrow 100 steps." He was very good at judging people. He knew that these two groups of people obviously did not have any sincerity in making a deal. Looking at their appearance, not to mention not having, even if they had the Xianming Ice Soul and the Blue Wave Water Pool, they probably would not take them out. They were probably still bullying him as an outsider and wanted to take advantage of him. As expected, when Qin Wushuang said this, one of the big men snorted angrily. "Your Excellency Xing He, even if we can't make a deal, we still need to have etiquette, right? You being so rigid and rejecting people thousands of miles away is not a friendly display." Lone snorted. "My master is here to participate in the Xianming Assembly, not to play friendly with you. If you think we are not friendly, you can leave immediately. We will not serve you." Qin Wushuang chuckled and gave Lone a thumbs up. He slowly walked towards the hall. He also wanted to see what kind of bounty missions there were. Walking to the front of the hall, Tianshan Sec's Ling Tianji happened to be walking over. Seeing the two groups of people following behind Qin Wushuang, Ling Tianji's expression changed. "Your two sects are privately pestering the VIP. Are you ignoring the rules of the Xianming Assembly? Don't look at how powerful those two forces were." In front of the Tianshan sect, they were still somewhat afraid. Furthermore, the mysterious underworld race had entrusted the Tianshan sect to host the mysterious underworld assembly. It was not an exaggeration to say that the Tianshan sect had the power to control life and death. The two groups of people snorted and left in embarrassment, not daring to talk back. Ling Tianji took a few steps forward and said in a mysterious tone, Sir Xinghe, I have a piece of news. I wonder if you're interested in hearing it? Seeing Ling Tianji like this, it did not seem like he was faking it. Moreover, Ling Tianji took the initiative to lower his posture and called himself a junior. Qin Wushuang was in a good mood, but he was not blindly optimistic. Instead, he asked calmly, What do you want? Ling Tianji originally wanted to tactfully mention the matter of reward. He did not expect the other party to be so direct. Chuckling, he nodded and said, Sir Xinghe is indeed very straightforward. Good, I will not play dumb in front of smart people. Sir Xinghe, I can give you a definite clue. It is related to the mysterious underworld ice soul and the water of the blue wave pool. If you are interested, I will say it. If you are not interested, just pretend I did not say it. Say it. What do you want? Then I will say it directly. If Sir Xinghe can give me a dragon breath seal, I will definitely tell you this information and guarantee that it is 100% reliable. I can guarantee it with the reputation of the Tianshan sect. Ling Tianji said solemnly. Qin Wushuang stared at Ling Tianji. Seeing his dignified expression, there was no suspicion that he was putting on an act. He was 70% convinced. Although Ling Tianji was not a kind person, he was still a little timid in front of him after being scared by him last time. He did not dare to play any tricks. If the information is suitable, a dragon breath seal is a small matter. Are you sure the information is useful? It can help me get the mysterious underworld ice soul and the water of the blue wave pool? Ling Tianji chuckled but did not answer directly. Instead, he said, Sir Xinghe, my father just told me privately that you are very powerful. However, it is very difficult to get the mysterious underworld ice soul and the water of the blue wave pool, except for the sacred ground of the mysterious underworld race. Although Sir Xinghe is powerful, the probability of success is not high if you want to break into the mysterious underworld sacred ground by force. Although the difficulty of the information provided by me is not small, it is definitely much better than breaking into the sacred ground by force. The most important thing is that it does not have any risk. It was undeniable that Ling Tianji was eloquent. After a round of comparison, Qin Wushuang felt a rush of excitement. He had plenty of dragon breath seals on hand. With a shake of his hand, a dragon breath seal was already in his hand. The mysterious aura of the dragon clan seal was emitted, making Ling Tianji's eyes burn. Qin Wushuang was about to give the dragon breath seal to Ling Tianji when the little girl behind him suddenly walked out from behind the door quietly. Although her eyes were a little timid, her tone was very firm. Sir Xinghe, I can also tell you a clue. I don't need your reward, as long as you accept me as your disciple. Qin Wushuang laughed. He looked at Ling Tianji and then at the little girl. Suddenly, he grinned. Ling Tianji, wait here for a moment. I will be back soon. After saying that, he flashed to the side of the little girl. A strong wind rolled up and carried the little girl. Then, he turned into a divine light and disappeared on the passageway. In a secluded corner, Qin Wushuang put down the little girl. Little girl, what is your name? Yang Yi. The little girl's watery eyes were as clear as autumn water. Her quick-witted eyelashes blinked slightly. Her thin figure was like a blue flower, making people feel tender affection for her. Where are you from? Where are your parents? Why do you want to take me as your master? When the little girl heard the word parents, her originally bright face immediately dimmed. She said in a low voice, I don't have parents. I don't have a father or a mother since I was sensible. Then why did you appear at the Xianming assembly? Qin Wushuang was rather curious. It sounded like this little girl should be an orphan. It was a fortune-teller uncle who sent me here. He said that I could find a master here. Him again? Qin Wushuang smiled bitterly. Then why did you find me? Did he tell you my name and appearance? He didn't say anything. He just said that my master is here. He told me to find based on my feelings. If I find the right one, he will definitely accept me as his disciple. Sir Xinghe, will you be my master? Since it was a trap set by Li Bai, Qin Wushuang knew that he must do this favor. Besides, Li Bai was a supreme elite warrior. He must have his reasons for making such arrangements. Upon seeing Qin Wushuang fall into silence, Yang Yi suddenly remembered something. She said, "By the way, Sir Xinghe, I almost forgot. That fortune-teller uncle also said that the Xianming clan has a secret bounty. If you can complete that bounty, you will certainly get what you want. Master, are the things you want the dark mysterious ice soul and the blue wave water pool?" Qin Wushuang was moved inwardly. Indeed, Senior Li Bai had foresight like a god. He had even guessed what he wanted. It seemed that the actions of a senior elite warrior were unpredictable. "Little girl, since Senior Li Bai arranged it this way, then follow me." Qin Wushuang revealed a trace of a smile. In the end, he was also an orphan in his former world. He had a form of indescribable love for orphans. "Sir Xinghe, are you truly willing to take me in?" Yang Yi was overjoyed at the unexpected good news. Her beautiful little eyes were filled with sincerity. "What did you call me?" Qin Wushuang revealed a faint smile. "Xing." "Oh yes, master." The little girl was naturally intelligent as she immediately understood. She knelt to the ground. "Master, I will kowtow to you." Qin Wushuang chuckled. "All right, since you want to become my disciple, I will accept your 3 kowtows and 9 kowtows. You must remember that my real name is Qin Wushuang. I am the head chief of the Xian Yuan Mound Qin clan. In my early years, I studied at the Stargaze Palace. You are my first disciple. In the future, when you do things, you must not disgrace your master's name." Yes, this disciple will definitely remember. Yang Yi was brimming with joy. Combined with her trying to pretend to be mature, her naive appearance appeared incredibly adorable. Yes, what do you know? Qin Wushuang wanted to test the foundation of this little girl. I burn firewood, cook rice, catch fish, roast sweet potatoes, and roast potatoes. Yes, I also know. When a series of skills were reported, Qin Wushuang felt dizzy. It was true that the children of the poor could manage the household early. Currently, this disciple was multi-talented. However, this was not what Qin Wushuang wanted to ask. When he saw that this little girl had no shrewdness, Qin Wushuang could not bear to ask too much. Inwardly, he thought, "This is a piece of unpolished jade. Whether she can be carved out, it seems I will have to make a fuss when I return to the Qin clan. I think Senior Li Bai would not send me a child without any talent, right?" When Ling Tianji saw the reappearance of Qin Wushuang, he went up to greet him with a beaming smile. However, Qin Wushuang revealed a cold expression. "Ling Tianji, you are treating me as a sucker, right? Today, among the bounties to be announced, there is a bounty mission from the Dark Mysterious clan. Soon it will be announced, and now you are keeping me in suspense. You have some guts to trick me." Ling Tianji could not help but feel his heart skip a beat. He looked at Qin Wushuang with disbelief and then looked at Yang Yi. Clearly, he did not expect that Qin Wushuang could see through his little thoughts after a conversation with this little girl. Just when he was about to defend himself, Qin Wushuang gave a cold sneer. "Humph, if you truly want the Dragon Breath Seal, since you are a junior, I can bestow one to you. Today, if it weren't for the face of the Dark Mysterious clan, I would certainly make you suffer." With an ashamed expression, Ling Tianji glared at Yang Yi with hatred. Qin Wushuang said lightly, "What are you glaring at? Now, this little girl is my disciple. If you want to cause trouble for her, you are asking for trouble." Ling Tianji complained incessantly. He could only smile apologetically and leave with shame. Indeed, the information Li Bai conveyed through Yang Yi was extremely accurate. This time, there were a total of 10 bounty missions. Indeed, the last bounty mission was issued by the Dark Mysterious clan. The content of the mission was to find a long-lost keepsake of the Dark Mysterious clan, the Dark Mysterious commanding plate. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com, support the author, support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.